Chapter 133. Regardless of what others thought, the game would not stop. The leaderboards had just been refreshed for the first time. This battle had just begun. Xie took a short break. After the team doctor checked on him and replenished his energy, he entered the gaming capsule again. He did not believe that the other party could still score so high in the second hour. Even if an operations team worked together to create a super ID, there had to be a time limit, right? Even if it was just gaming, people would get tired. There was a limit to their energy. Did other teams have the resources of the Big Five? Silver Wing Tower 50th floor. Wayne did not leave. Instead, he stayed on guard. Why did he say that the virtual projects department was stirring up trouble again? Wayne was, of course, happy that an expert had appeared. So much so that when he saw the ranking and the words Silver Wing, he was also excited and moved. However, for a commercial entertainment company, any major matters would only start after the planning team had made the necessary arrangements. Over the past year, Silver Wing had only been passive in two matters. The first was the sudden emergence of Polar Light last year. Back then, Polar Light's debut had caught many of Silver Wing's departments off guard. The spokesperson could only smile to the outside world. The other was now. After Fiery Bird's official leaderboards were refreshed for the first time, Silver Wing's spokesperson, Lin Dun, once again smiled and did not say a word. Facing the questions of the team Silver Wing 50 Polar Light and the mysterious alive after 500 years, Fiery Bird's chief spokesperson, Lin Dun, once again smiled and did not say a word. As the manager of the gaming department, Wayne was pleasantly surprised, but he also had to consider the company's reputation. The truth could not be made public. If it was made public, it would be a joke. The small celebrities that Silver Wing's gaming department had invested in to promote had not yet been hyped up, but the virtual projects department had suddenly fired a salute. Now, Silver Wing's public relations team was busy trying to resolve the problem. As for Wayne, he wanted to continue waiting. He wanted to get first-hand information from Zhu Wan and the others. Right now, only Zhu Wan and the others could contact Feng Zhao. Zhu Wan and the others had already logged back into the game. Feng Zhao had given them an hour to reflect on their actions. The time limit had already passed, and they could not wait to log back in. When they logged back in, they were still in the same warehouse. The corpses of the beasts that Zuiyu had shot down before logging off had already disappeared. In the game, the corpses would disappear after a period of time. As a game, it was still mainly for entertainment. The players didn't play the game to be abused. The game was to find the most suitable and appropriate point between reality and the virtual world. It allowed the players to feel the real background and find the fun in the game. The pile of corpses and the rotting smell would not be too strong, so after a while, the corpses of beasts and humans would disappear. This was also the reason why these scenes in the game seemed more empty. In real history, too many creatures had died during the early stages of the period of destruction, and the entire city had been shrouded in the stench of decay. However, the game had avoided these factors. Boss isn't here. Zui looked around. This time, he didn't dare to be careless. He lowered his voice and carefully looked around. There's a message. The boss left it for us, Rodney said. In the game, communication was more convenient. There was also a group communication platform within the same team. Let's move around freely and get used to it. He didn't say where he is. Zuiyu asked in the group chat, Boss, where are you now? Do you need backup? Feng Zhao did not reply immediately. Maybe he's busy, Zuiyu said. Right, Zuiyu? I didn't ask you because Zhu Zhan and Wayne were there. You went offline after us. Do you know what happened to the boss? Zui asked. For Zui, whether it was Zhu Zhan, who had been sent by the higher-ups, or Wayne from the gaming department, they were all outsiders. They could talk about their secrets in private. He wouldn't say too much in front of outsiders. The others also looked at Zuiyu suspiciously. Feng Zhao had taken first place on the leaderboards. They were no less shocked than the others. Zuiyu didn't know how to explain. All he could say was, his marksmanship is accurate. Zuiyu didn't mention the ferocity with which Feng Zhao had swung the metal rod. He was afraid it would scare Zui and the others. So what do we do now? Zui was at a loss. Do we go out and kill some monsters? There are probably no big monsters to kill in this area. We can only pick up some small ones, Zhuyu said. They had been assigned to an urban area, and the number of mutated beasts there was limited. Don't tell me there aren't even rats? Zui was puzzled. There should be rats, just a little less. Didn't we learn in secondary school biology class that rats that lived in the sewers during the period of destruction had a lower chance of contracting diseases and were more resistant to diseases than humans? Vaccines were developed with them. On the other hand, pets that were taken care of had a higher chance of being infected. Then let's search and see what else we can find. Right? The boss has already cleaned up upstairs. Let's go up and take a look. Maybe we can find some useful tools. Zuyu didn't mind. Before Feng Zhao's reply, he would bring these people to adapt. It feels like we're holding them back, Zui muttered. There's a lot of pressure, Rodney said. This was the first time they had encountered such a situation. They had originally planned to protect Feng Zhao in the game, but now the tables had turned. They were holding the team back. Zuyu was expressionless. He thought to himself, you guys are under a lot of pressure? Are you as stressed as me? You guys are only under a lot of pressure in the game. I'm under a lot of pressure in the game and in real life. Battle of the Century began. 2:00, 00. The leaderboards refreshed for the second time. Wayne had been waiting in front of the screen for a long time. After the second refresh, the two leaderboards in the Yinzhou region did not change much. The team leaderboards were still dominated by the big 5 esports clubs, and the individual leaderboards did not change either. However, the gap between first and second place had widened. In first place, Alive After 500 Years had 15377, 6 experience points. In second place, Xiehe had 6018, 3 experience points. In second place, the professional shooter from Mazhou, Massier, had 8195, 5 points. What an unbelievable difference. When Wayne saw the leaderboards, he could not help but take a deep breath. Ecstasy, excitement, and a rare feeling of not knowing what to do dominated his thoughts. For a moment, he remained staring at the screen. Only his fists, which were clenched tightly under the table, were trembling. He knew that their gaming department's opportunity had come. Meanwhile, the internet had already exploded. After the second refresh, many people were scared silly. Previously, they had doubted how he had managed to get 5,000 points in an hour, but in the second hour, he had managed to get 10,000 points. Even if that Mazhou player had managed to get 4,000 points in the second hour after upgrading his equipment, it was still nothing compared to Alive After 500 Years. Is this really something a human can do? 15,000 points. 10,000 in an hour. How did he get it? Did he go crazy? Which district in Yinzhou is this? I want to go watch. There were also people who directly spent money to purchase props in the Yinzhou district. Everyone in the district could hear and see the message they had sent. Who knows which district Alive After 500 Years is in? $1,000 reward. Private message sent. There was more than one such message. It could have been some tycoon, some entertainment media, or some esports club using a sock puppet to fish for information. But no matter how much these people clamored, no one could confirm which district Alive After 500 Years was in. The public information on the Silverwing 50 Polar Light team was limited. Other than the team name, nothing else could be seen. The districts were randomly assigned after logging in and entering the game. Zhu and the others did not contact anyone else. After being bitten and logged off, he was too embarrassed to tell his friends. Besides, most of the people he knew were online and enjoying themselves. It was rare for someone to be bitten by a fish not long after coming online. The other members of the team were in the same situation. At that time, they had not had much contact with their classmates and friends, which had led to the current situation. No one knew who the members of the Silverwing 50 Polar Light team were, or which district they were in. The analysts listed their guesses. A single person taking so many points could not have caused a small commotion. Someone would definitely have noticed, but there were 100 smaller districts under the Yinzhou district, and there were quite a few that had caused a big commotion. Excluding the districts where the few big esports clubs were located, there were quite a few that looked like it. After filtering through them one by one, 7 districts were finally whittled down. Among these 7 districts, some had professional esports clubs, But who could be sure that Silver Wing had not collaborated with those clubs or private teams? District 79 was also a suspect. District 79 was gloomy. Their district had a crazed kill-snatching demon, or maybe it was a kill-snatching team. It was still unclear who the other party was. After all, they could not see the ID, and it was also unclear how many members the other party had. Battle of the Century began at 4 o'clock, 00. District 79 South was swept. Battle of the Century began at 8 o'clock, 00. District 79 East was swept. Battle of the Century began at 12 o'clock, 00. District 79 West was swept. Perhaps it was because many people had already adapted to the game and found ways to upgrade their equipment. Some of the wealthier players bought equipment from teams that specialized in selling in-game equipment. This way, the players at the top of the leaderboard would be able to obtain fewer points by killing monsters. This was because everyone's standards had risen. But no matter what, alive after 500 years, who had dominated the global leaderboards for 12 consecutive hours, had gained 7,000 to 10,000 points every time the leaderboards refreshed. Not only had he not been caught up by the others, but he had also left them further and further behind. Gamers everywhere were dissatisfied. I don't believe it. There must be a problem somewhere. Cheater. Already filed a complaint, strongly requesting a thorough investigation. Chapter 134. Fiery Birds, Nothing Out of the Ordinary, was to tell everyone that there were no cheats and no substitute training. It was really Fiery Bird alone who had obtained so many points. What was different from everyone else's focus was on Yinzhou's District 79. The people of District 79 were on the verge of tears. It was not that all the mutated creatures had been swept clean, but wherever the gunshots had swept through, whether it was on the streets or in open buildings, it was as if they had been sifted through. The larger ones, the more obvious ones, had all been sifted away. There were not many infected ones to be seen. On the streets, the larger mutated beasts that could be seen running were pitifully few. It was as if they had really been cleaned up by a cleaner. Some people lying in ambush, waiting to snipe their prey, did not even get a single one in half an hour. Players who had the financial resources but lacked the skills understood their limits. When they first logged into the game, they did not wander around. They just familiarized themselves with the game and practiced their controls. When it was about time, they went offline to look for those studios or teams that sold equipment. They did not have the ability to kill monsters for points and experience. Without points, they could not exchange for more items, so they could only look for people to buy from. In 12 hours, a lot had happened in half a day. Equipment sellers used the points earned by their teams to exchange for equipment or guns that they had picked up while hunting monsters. These could be sold to others at a fixed price. After arranging a location, they could deliver the equipment. Alternatively, the buyer could give them in-game coordinates, and they could go deliver the equipment. Teams that specialized in strategy also gave out secret manuals that had been compiled in half a day. But when these players bought the equipment, finished reading the strategy, and were fully equipped for battle, they realized that the surroundings were much emptier when they went online. There was not a single monster to be seen. What do you expect me to fight? Who knew when the next wave of monsters would come? Small monsters? Small monsters were beneath their notice. This stifling feeling of possessing exceptional martial arts but not having a place to use them was rather unbearable. Yinzhou Qian City, in the chief editor's office of the popular Prairie Fire. Qin Sheng looked at his subordinate's report and pondered for a while. Is it District 79? I don't know. There is no way to confirm. The other districts have not clearly stated that it is either. The employee who had come over to report on the progress of the investigation replied. Qin Sheng sat in his office chair. Although there was no obvious change in his expression, the fingers that were tapping on the table had become much more forceful. A Prairie Fire employee said angrily, I asked for their team name, and they did not say it directly. They are so secretive. He's just freeloading. They were very angry. They had already sent people to the few suspicious regions that they had screened out. They had also asked a few clubs, but some of the clubs or teams in those regions had directly answered no, while some were vague and did not make a clear statement. After the matter was over, they immediately stirred up the news to attract attention. They did not like these methods, but they could not rule out the possibility that those people were the culprits. Previously, Qian Chang had thought that as long as he kept an eye on a team with only one person killing crazily, or if everyone else in the team was creating hunting conditions for one person, then that would definitely be the target they were looking for. But very quickly, the points of the other members of the Silverwing 50 Polar Light team also started to rise, so it was really hard to make a judgment now. 12 hours passed. The number 1 spot on the global solo leaderboard for Battle of the Century had not changed at all. There were not many changes in the top 10 either. However, the number of points was still increasing. As for Feng Zhao, who was the center of everyone's heated discussion, he simply didn't care about the reactions of others. He blocked the regional messages and didn't check the team messages. He kept shooting, reloading, shooting, reloading, shooting. He tossed aside all other emotions. He just wanted to properly vent in this game. When he felt that it was about time, Feng Zhao stopped and checked the team messages. There was nothing too important, so he went offline after reporting that he was safe. Feng Zhao came out of the game console drenched in sweat. His clothes were already drenched. Even without twisting his body, he could see droplets of sweat dripping from his clothes. Both his mind and body seemed rather exhausted. Feng Zhao didn't rest once an hour, or once every few hours like other people thought he would. He had hunted for 12 hours straight, and he hadn't stopped to rest at all in between. This was a thorough venting of his anger. He was obviously already very tired, but there was a peculiar glow in the depths of his eyes. Refreshing, relaxing. That feeling was like a heavy downpour after a persistent gray haze. It was incomparably refreshing. Feng Zhao took a deep breath. This was the most relaxing moment since his rebirth. He didn't need to rely on the background music in his head to adjust it, and he didn't need to deliberately suppress it. That heavy and oppressive feeling had dissipated quite a bit, and he truly felt relaxed from the inside out. Of course, other than the feeling of exhaustion, there was also the feeling of hunger. If it wasn't for the fact that this body's constitution had been greatly enhanced, any other person would have long since fainted from exhaustion or hunger. In Yinzhou's time zone, it was already past 6 in the evening. Feng Zhao drank a high-energy beverage and took a shower. After decompressing the compressed food he had stored, he enjoyed his dinner while checking the messages on his communications device. There were close to 100 calls on his communication device, giving Feng Zhao fright. He thought that something big had happened, but after reading the messages, he understood the reason. However, he hadn't paid attention to the leaderboards previously. To be honest, from his point of view, it really wasn't a big deal, so he hadn't even thought about the rankings beforehand. At that time, he had only wanted to vent the vicious feelings he had suppressed in his heart for a long time and toss aside all other emotions. He hadn't expected that it would lead to the current situation. First place in the entire leaderboard? As he was looking at it, there was a caller ID on his communication device. It wasn't Duan Xinji, but Gaming Department Manager Wayne. Wayne had been waiting since the morning for Feng Zhao to go offline. Because Feng Zhao hadn't gone offline all this time, Silverwing didn't know what was going on and hadn't communicated with Feng Zhao. They also didn't dare release any news, so to outsiders, it seemed like Silverwing was probably planning something big. Even some veteran entertainment industry analysts shook their heads helplessly. I don't understand, and I can't guess what exactly Silverwing is up to. Feng Zhao, you finally went offline. Wayne's tone was rather agitated. When he got agitated, he unconsciously raised his voice at the end of his sentence. Feng Zhao held the communication device a little further away before replying, Yeah, what's up? Do you know that you are now number 1 on the overall leaderboards? I just found out. Wayne's hearing was very good. He could tell that Feng Zhao's tone was relaxed and that he was probably in a good mood. He even thought that Feng Zhao was happy because he was number 1 on the overall leaderboards. Then, what are your plans after this? Wayne asked carefully. Nothing much. Feng Zhao's motive for logging into the game was just to vent the vicious feelings he had been suppressing for a long time. Now that his goal had been achieved, everything else didn't matter. How he played next depended on his mood. Wayne pumped his fist twice and steadied his tone before saying, Are you interested in collaborating? Wayne told Feng Zhao his plans. He wanted to use the company's resources to prop Fang Zhao up and forge him into a superstar in the gaming world. As long as Fang Zhao agreed, their gaming department was going to rise. Wayne could already see a bright future ahead. Not interested, Fang Zhao replied. Don't be so quick to reject. A collaboration would benefit everyone. How about this? You have been gaming for so long and must be tired. Why don't you rest first and consider my proposal? After ending the call, Wayne immediately contacted Duan Qianji. He couldn't convince Fang Zhao, so he could only look for Silverwing's big boss, Duan Qianji, to step in. If other companies found out that alive after 500 years was Fang Zhao, they would surely spend a lot of money to poach people from Silverwing. Today, quite a few companies had already publicly expressed that they were willing to spend a lot of money to poach people from Silverwing. They would pay the penalty fees. It wasn't just Yinzhou companies. There were companies from other continents as well. But others didn't know that Silverwing's contract with Fang Zhao had not mentioned anything about gaming. If Fang Zhao signed a contract with another company as a gamer, it wouldn't be considered a breach of contract. Thus, less than a minute after the call with Wayne, Fang Zhao received another call from Duan Qianji. Frankly speaking, Duan Qianji had treated Fang Zhao quite well. Fang Zhao was willing to give this company boss some face. As expected, Duan Qianji once again tried to persuade Fang Zhao to collaborate with the gaming department. Fang Zhao could raise any conditions he had, and she would invite Fang Zhao to the company tomorrow to discuss it properly. Not just Wayne, but Duan Qianji also didn't want to let go of such a great opportunity. After the call ended, Fang Zhao didn't go online immediately. Instead, he browsed through the news on Fiery Bird's official Battle of the Century gaming forum. Indeed, many people were talking about today's rankings. After taking a look, Fang Zhao switched to the Yinzhou region. The various esports clubs' publicity teams had already made their move. The top trending news was mostly related to those few esports clubs. Fang Zhao entered District 79 to see if there was any major news in District 79. Previously, when he had been gaming, district news had been blocked, so he didn't know much. As expected, everyone was discussing the matter of District 79's east, west, and west sides being swept by someone. Just at this moment, a sticky post appeared. That unknown god who swept this district's east, west, and west sides. Show mercy. District 79 North, please let him off. We are still just students. If this was the real period of destruction, they might be eager for someone to sweep a district, but this was just a game. Fang Zhao reflected on his own actions. It was indeed not very appropriate. It felt like he was bullying a child. After he finished sweeping, others wouldn't be able to play anymore. After thinking it through, Fang Zhao logged in with the account he had registered while gaming and replied to the student's post. Alive after 500 years. Okay. In the next moment, the number of replies in the post increased explosively. This ID? The fuck? What did I just see? The number 1 on the leaderboards is actually in our district. He is that mysterious kill-stealing demon who swept through District 79's east, west, and west sides. The person who had posted the post was a university student who had just bought equipment with a few classmates. They had bought quite a lot of bullets and guns and had planned to have a good time. After seeing the situation in District 79's east, west, and west sides, he had posted the post. He had not expected that his post would cause this god to come out. It had appeared. District 79. The media was like a cat that had smelled blood. They rushed over to District 79. Those who had not been randomly assigned to District 79 for the first time bought District 79 numbers. District 79's professional account selling team had not expected business to be so good on the first day. However, the people who rushed to District 79 that night did not manage to find their target. Instead, the sound of gunfire could be heard in District 78's east, which bordered District 79's west side. Chapter 135. Those who had been ordered to stand guard in District 79 were trembling in fear. Gaming was not their strong suit. Glib talking, sneakily taking pictures, and blocking people were their life's pursuits. Thus, after logging in to District 79, they found a place to hole up. They were not here to kill monsters, but to stand guard. Someone from the same company was contacting his accomplice. Is there a situation on your side? No, where I'm at, there are a few players fighting a monster that popped out of nowhere. I'm wondering if I can take advantage of the situation. Maybe I can earn some points. Don't even think about it. With your shooting skills, don't take the risk. Someone on my side also wanted to take advantage of the situation and lost 3 lives in less than 5 minutes. He went offline to get a scolding. I reckon his salary will be docked. Then I'll just wait. This game is too scary. I'm a little scared. A reporter who rarely played games said. He had been pulled over at the last minute as reinforcements. In the past, he had reported on food and culture, and his style was artistic and fresh. Today, the company's gaming and entertainment section was lacking people, and he happened to have the time. So he had been temporarily transferred over to stand guard. He wanted to see if he could wait for that mysterious alive after 500 years. He heard that if he was lucky enough to stand guard, he would get a raise. The mission sounded simple, so he accepted it. Unexpectedly, when he logged into the game and saw those hardcore period of destruction monsters, he almost screamed. Even now, his legs were still wobbly. That's because you're timid. You'll get used to it after playing so many games. The sky, it's already dark. Doesn't that alive after 500 years sleep? Have you ever seen a gamer sleep so early? Wait here. He definitely won't go offline so early. At most, he'll go back online after resting for a while. Don't worry about anything else. Just listen for the gunshots. Will something come out at night? I've never used a gun before. I didn't come into contact with firearms during my military service. No problem. Just hole up in a safe place and close the doors and windows. Don't go out and don't make any noise. It'll be fine. After Alive after 500 years had been exposed, every corner of District 79 was filled with media spies. Some were news reporters, others were paid players. Other types of mutated beasts also came out at night, but it was too dark. Players with night vision goggles fared better, but those without such equipment often died before they could see anything clearly. Reporters from various media outlets guarded a safe place, not daring to go out. They just pricked up their ears to see if there were any gunshots like the ones mentioned. However, they did not hear the gunshots. Instead, they heard strange beast roars and human screams. The stimulation from their nerves sent chills down their spines. It was much more difficult at night. If one was not careful, they could lose their life. Hence, many players logged off. Compared to the day, the number of players at night was much smaller. However, it was not as if there were none. Some people like this kind of more exciting environment. In different time zones around the world, when it was daytime in some continents, it would also be daytime in the region of the game. As a result, some of the players who were originally at the bottom of the rankings would take advantage of the daytime to sweep up points, and their rankings would continue to rise. However, there were not many changes to the top 10. As many people knew, even if the players in their time zones were already at night and went offline because they were not used to the dark environment, they did not go to sleep. Instead, they paid attention to game-related news. Some people were busy buying equipment, others were busy memorizing strategy guides, waiting to fight the next day. There were also some people reading gossip news. Fuck. Why is he still sweeping points? That Alive after 500 years is online again? I just asked my cousin's classmates, Yenjo relatives, and neighbors. There seems to be no movement in District 79. Nonsense. Of course there is no movement in District 79. He has gone to District 78. Indeed, very soon, a piece of news appeared with a screenshot of the district's internal news. It was posted by people from District 78 in-game. District 78 East has been swept. Based on the gunshots, it seems like Alive after 500 years has appeared. Why is he in our district? Is he bullying our District 78 for not having any experts? Why doesn't he go to District 80? Someone from District 80 immediately replied, Our District 80 has many people and few monsters, and the roads are not easy to traverse. Really, God, please don't come. In Yenjo, only 100 districts were displayed on the map, and the situation of each district was known. Because the names of many places during the period of destruction were blurred in the game, the districts were divided into districts, and the names of the districts were given the district codes. District 79, District 78, and District 80 were geographically adjacent to each other on the map. After a while, the people guarding District 79 received instructions from their respective bosses. Withdraw first. Are we not guarding tonight? A reporter guarding District 79 asked his companions. Not guarding tonight. He has already gone to District 78. What's the point of guarding? Then wouldn't we have been guarding for a few hours? Who has a District 78 number? Let's go over there and take a look. The reporters at District 79 withdrew one after another after receiving the order. Some went to buy a District 78 number. They did not dare to go from District 79 to District 78 alone. The dangers they might encounter along the way were enough to kill them 100 times over. Their profession was that of a reporter, not a gamer. The people selling numbers and equipment in District 78 had originally gone offline to rest, but when they heard that Alive after 500 years had come to their District 78, they immediately woke up. They were not panicking but excited. This meant that more people would come to District 78, and the price of their equipment would increase. Profited. Just like before, the number of reporters camping in District 78 had increased. Some of them were even hired by the media from other continents to camp there. When they saw that the person on the ranking list was still active at night, they became curious and thought that they might be able to get some big news at night. However, just as these people rushed to District 78 to camp, Feng Zhao went offline. The nighttime environment consumed more mental and physical strength than in the day. A little carelessness could easily lead to injury or even death. Furthermore, he had been playing for a long time in the day, and he had only rested for lunch in the afternoon. Now, after another 5 hours, he was too tired. After taking a shower, eating something, and flipping through the news, Feng Zhao lay down on his bed and fell asleep. This was probably the first quality sleep he had had since his reincarnation, and he fell asleep easily. However, the reporters stationed at District 78 continued to hole up in a dark corner, listening to the roars of beasts outside and trembling in fear until they received instructions from above to evacuate. This night was undoubtedly not peaceful. Gamers were excitedly discussing their gains from the first day, sharing their experiences and interesting anecdotes. Fans were busy following the stars of various esports clubs, and the media was especially active. This year, Yinzhou had produced an awesome person, not from the Big Five but from the entertainment company Silver Wing. As for who Alive after 500 years really was, everyone had their own guesses, but it did not matter. No matter who it was enough for them to hype up the news. The next day, Zuyu came to pick Feng Zhao up early in the morning. As Feng Zhao's chauffeur and bodyguard, he had to fulfill his duties. He felt that he could only be used as a chauffeur. If he did not perform well, who knew when he would be fired? Zuyu really liked this job. There was not much to do, and the pay was high. It was just that he felt a little pressured. His boss was more capable than he was, and he always felt a little guilty about taking the money. Meeting Feng Zhao again, Zuyu had mixed feelings. His previous sense of superiority was nowhere to be found, and he was not as casual and playful when facing Feng Zhao. Like the majority of his fellow bodyguards, he was respectful. He was also curious about how Feng Zhao had scored so many points, but Feng Zhao would not say, so he could not force him. In any case, he would definitely find out in the future. Zuyu told him about Wayne's visit to the Virtual Projects Department. Boss, are you going to collaborate with the gaming department? Zuyu asked. Depends. Feng Zhao had gone over today for this matter. He wanted to see what Silver Wing's plans were and the conditions they had proposed. If the conditions satisfied him, he did not mind playing along with Silver Wing. After all, he had nothing better to do. Oh right, I have a question for you, Feng Zhao said. Zuyu unconsciously sat up straight. Go ahead. A question from the boss had to be taken seriously. Do military and police personnel play this sort of game a lot? Feng Zhao asked. Actually, military and police personnel don't play much. They treat it as practice. They don't spend much time gaming, and they don't play so hard. Other than professional esports players, the ones who play a lot are athletes. That guy from Majo, the one ranked second below you on the leaderboards, is a shooting athlete. Seeing that Feng Zhao was interested in this topic, Zuyu continued explaining. Actually, it is not hard to understand. Let me give you an example. You know about Muzhou's shepherd dogs and police dogs. The people of Muzhou train police dogs not the same way they train shepherd dogs, and they do not let them participate in shepherd dog competitions. Shepherd dogs are also not raised the same way as police dogs. Military and police dogs are trained differently from shepherd dogs. If one day, a police dog adapts to a sheep herding competition, the people of Muzhou will no longer treat it as a police dog because it is no longer suitable. Whether he was explaining to Feng Zhao or himself, Zuiyu's voice was a little gloomy. If they get used to the mentality of gaming, when it comes to carrying out a real mission, they will lose their lives. After saying that, Zuiyu checked Feng Zhao's reaction in the rearview mirror. Feng Zhao was just looking out the window, as if thinking about something. His face was expressionless, and Zuiyu could not tell if he had understood what Zuiyu had said. As they neared the Silver Wing building, Zuiyu said, "There are more people waiting over there today. Let's enter the building from another entrance." After the incident with Alive After 500 Years and Silverwing 50 Polar Light, there were more reporters loitering outside the Silver Wing building. Today, Zuiyu did not drive the car he usually used. Instead, he drove a more low-key car, and he entered the building through another passageway. The door to Silverwing's 50th floor was already tightly shut, afraid that when it was opened, the people outside would squeeze in. Feng Zhao took the elevator to the 50th floor. When he exited the elevator, he saw 5 people standing at the elevator door. All 5 of them wore Silverwing's gaming department employee badges. Feng Zhao had seen 3 of them before. Back when he had gone to the film department, he had bumped into them in the elevator. He did not recognize the other 2. Feng Zhao guessed that they had signed a separate contract with the gaming department. Just as he was about to ask them what they were doing there, he saw all 5 of them simultaneously look over. 5 pairs of eyes looked as if they had suddenly seen shining gold. Then, as if they had been trained, they bowed toward Feng Zhao. "Greetings, boss." Feng Zhao. Chapter 136. Hey, don't shout. Who are you calling boss? Look at the place. Zuwan, who had been about to head to the company's cafeteria to grab something to eat, saw the scene at the elevator door the moment he stepped out and was instantly enraged. "You actually dare to poach our department's cornerstone at the main entrance? If you guys poach the people from the virtual projects department, how are we going to survive? Get lost. Get back to your gaming department." Zuwan waved his hands and did not give the 5 a good look. He turned around and ran over to Feng Zhao. "Boss, ignore them. Let's go in and talk." However, the 5 seemed to stick to him as they followed Feng Zhao into the virtual projects department. Zuwan could not squeeze them away. "Wayne said that we will follow you from now on," a youngster with an afro said to Feng Zhao. The last time they had seen Feng Zhao was when he had just been recalled to the company. They had seen him in the elevator at the film department, but they had not taken it to heart. After all, Feng Zhao's specialization was different, and he was in a different department. But who could have expected this situation? On their first day of gaming, Wayne had set a target for them. They had worked like dogs to grind out points. When they had come out of the gaming capsule and seen their results, they had been a little pleased and a little apprehensive. They were pleased because they felt that they had done well. Those points were already considered high for them. Even if they were given a chance to do it again, they might not be able to do it. And apprehensive because their rankings were not ideal. They were all in their early 20s, and the oldest among the 5 was only 28. This was the first time they had experienced the strong competitiveness of the leaderboards. They had clearly done their best, but their rankings had not risen. If they had been careless, they would have been left far behind. They had been wondering if they would receive praise or criticism from Wayne when they went offline. But when they came out, other than the helpers arranged for them, they had not seen Wayne at all. The reactions of the others in the gaming department were also very strange. They seemed excited, but at the same time, they seemed regretful about something. The 5 of them had not been able to get a reason from the department. The reply they had received was just to do their best. Silverwing 50 Polar Light on the leaderboards and Alive After 500 Years, who had been occupying the top spot ever since the leaderboards had been refreshed, had really piqued their curiosity. They were all wondering if the rumors were true. Other than the 5 of them, Silverwing's gaming department had also collaborated with the virtual projects department and signed others, formed another team. The 5 of them only saw Wayne at night. The moment they learned the truth from Wayne, they were so shocked that their jaws almost fell to the ground. Their minds went blank, and they didn't know how to react. Feng Zhao, the composer, the boss of the virtual projects department? He couldn't tell at all. Wayne taught them all night and gave them new instructions. Having been in charge of the gaming department for so many years, Wayne had his own methods. He was not an indecisive person. So when he made the decision, Wayne abandoned his original plan and did not let these 5 people continue to come online. Instead, he prepared for them to register new accounts and join the Silverwing 50 Polar Light team to enter District 79. If it were someone else, they wouldn't have been so decisive to throw away their first day of hard work. However, no matter how many ideas Wayne had, he still had to get Feng Zhao's approval first. Therefore, the 5 of them had run over early in the morning to keep watch. They were nervous and anxious, especially when they saw Feng Zhao. It was as if they had seen the bright light that they had been looking up to. Feng Zhao stopped the 5 who still wanted to say something. Don't be in a hurry to shout. I haven't decided whether to bring you guys along. After checking Duan Xinji's message, Feng Zhao entered the elevator and went up to the top floor. In Duan Xinji's office on the top floor, Duan Xinji and Wayne were already sitting there. There was also a deputy manager of the gaming department sitting beside them. Seeing Feng Zhao, Wayne's face immediately broke into a big smile, as if he had seen a family member he hadn't seen for many years. He couldn't help but want to go over and give Feng Zhao a tight hug. Duan Xinji's assistant had already retired. There were only the 4 of them, so they didn't have to worry about important decisions being leaked. Duan Xinji didn't beat around the bush and told them about the 2 plans she had discussed with Wayne. The first plan was to go all out to create a superstar, let alive after 500 years become a super ID, and use all the resources of the gaming department to provide assistance to Feng Zhao. Once that happened, Feng Zhao would become the first superstar since the establishment of Silverwing to gain a foothold in the gaming circles. However, Feng Zhao didn't have much interest in this. He had already rejected Wayne over the phone the day before. If that was really the case, it would mean that he could only follow the path and goals the company had arranged for him. He wouldn't have much autonomy. Creating a superstar didn't matter. He didn't rely on this to make a living. Hearing Feng Zhao reject once again, Duan Xinji and Wayne couldn't help but feel a little regretful. After all, this plan was the safest and simplest for them at this stage, and they could reap quite a lot of benefits. However, Feng Zhao didn't sign a contract with the company as a gamer, so they really couldn't force him. I knew you would reject it, so we came up with a second plan, Wayne said his thoughts. What they meant was that since Feng Zhao didn't agree to the first plan, they could all try to cooperate. Silverwing would also hire Feng Zhao to lead a few people over at the gaming department. They had a purpose in signing those 5 people. Their original plan was to raise the 5 of them up and turn them into 5 gaming stars. Feng Zhao was silent for a while before asking, "What you mean is that you only want to groom 5 average gaming stars?" Duan Xinji and Wayne were very capable people. Hearing Feng Zhao's question, they knew that Feng Zhao definitely had other ideas. "What suggestions do you have?" "Not much of a suggestion. I've seen the information you sent me on those 5 people, including their performance in yesterday's game. It won't be easy to raise their individual points," Feng Zhao said. "We can cooperate with those professional support studios," Wayne said. He was talking about the kind that helped get equipment, help lure monsters, and help control monsters for the employer to hunt and kill. It was a one-stop service that allowed the employer to raise their points. Previously, Wayne had cooperated with a studio and helped the 5 people who had signed a contract to farm points. Unfortunately, even with support, they couldn't compare to Feng Zhao's single-handedly. They didn't even get 1/5 of Feng Zhao's points. "My team doesn't have that kind of studio," Feng Zhao rejected mercilessly. "If you don't use a studio, just the few of you won't be able to meet the requirements. If that's the case, if you want to raise your points, you can only rely on your own team. It's not that I'm pouring cold water on you, but even though I don't know much about this, I know that 5 people is too little. Even if you are included, if we were to compete with the Big 5, the other second-tier esports clubs wouldn't be able to compete. Zhu 1 and the others are all amateurs. Furthermore, they have other jobs, so they can't be counted," Wayne analyzed. "Then recruit more people." Fang Zhao wasn't anxious about Wayne's doubts. He continued, previously, you guys also said that you would keep an eye on some seedlings. If you see any decent ones, sign them over. You think it's simple. It's not that I want to discourage you, but those outstanding targets don't have any interest in us. I have compiled a list myself and sent out invitations. Not a single one of them replied. If you don't believe me, you can try. Before he could finish his sentence, Wayne suddenly paused. His eyes widened abruptly, as if he had thought of a crucial factor. His fists, which were resting on the armrests of his chair, clenched tightly. Even his breathing stopped for a moment. It wasn't that he couldn't sign people by offering a high price. It was just that he couldn't sign those that Wayne was satisfied with. It was that he didn't have the ability to poach those outstanding players. Wayne knew what he was capable of. Compared to many professional gamers in the gaming circle, he really wasn't much. Wayne? Who was he? This was the reaction that many gamers would have when they saw this name. This was also the reason why Wayne had received so few replies despite sending out so many invitations. Many people couldn't even be bothered to give a simple rejection. True disregard. However, Wayne could understand this. As an entertainment company, Silver Wing didn't have much involvement in esports. Its focus was on movies and other aspects. Thus, in many people's eyes, Silver Wing was the same as other entertainment companies. They only saw that the gaming industry was profitable and came over to play. Professional gamers with ambition normally wouldn't consider this kind of entertainment company. In the past, there had been many examples of people being poached by entertainment companies from esports clubs at a high price. They only shone brightly for a short period of time. After that, their stardom dimmed and no one in the gaming circles mentioned them again. Thus, as the manager of the gaming department of a comprehensive entertainment company, it was rather difficult for Wayne to poach a target that he fancied. But Fang Zhao was different. The first place on the entire leaderboard was still occupied by Alive after 500 years. Which professional gamer didn't know this ID? Furthermore, Fang Zhao seemed to be able to maintain his position. No one in the office spoke. Only Wayne's increasingly heavy breathing could be heard. Wait. Wayne hurriedly opened his briefcase and took out a document. He solemnly said, "Please take a look at this name list." Wayne's hands were trembling as he handed the name list to Fang Zhao. This name list was the result of his efforts over the past 3 years. 3 years ago, he had started making a move on these people. Unfortunately, these people didn't care about him, and he hadn't been able to poach a single one. Those on the name list, especially those at the top, any one of them could create big news. Poaching 3 would be able to firmly dominate the fiercely competitive headlines. Poaching 5, and their gaming department would soar. After handing over the name list to Fang Zhao, Wayne watched Fang Zhao's reaction. He originally thought that Fang Zhao would gasp in surprise. But who knew that Fang Zhao would only glance at it and ask, "Only from this continent?" You still want to poach from other continents? Are there any? Fang Zhao asked. No, but I can start taking note now. Wayne hurriedly declared, "Let me take a look at this name list first. Let me say this first. I call the shots on my team. After all, this is a project the company is investing in." Wayne was in a difficult position. Not being able to control it in his own hands made him feel uneasy. Fang Zhao put down the name list and prepared to leave. "All right then, find someone else." "Hey, young man, don't be so agitated. I didn't say you can't." Chapter 137. When Wayne returned to the gaming department from the top floor, he felt like he was floating. "Boss, did it work out?" Someone from the gaming department asked nervously. The dreamy excitement on Wayne's face receded a little. He adopted the dignity of a department manager and cleared his throat. MMHM, following which, he recalled the beautiful future that had appeared in his mind, and he couldn't help but grin. Cough. Everyone needs to be more serious and keep your mouth shut. Got it? Our gaming department might really rise to prominence. Wayne exhorted. Got it. The people in the gaming department answered in unison. Wayne did not divulge too much. He wanted to explain to the people in the department and boost their morale, but he was also worried that Fang Zhao would not be able to poach people. When the time came, it would not look too good. Therefore, Wayne decided to bear with it and wait until Feng Zhao could confirm how many people he could poach. That's right. In the end, Wayne and Duan Qinji agreed to Feng Zhao's conditions. Since Feng Zhao was leading the team, they would leave the decision to Feng Zhao as long as he could poach people. Wayne was also a businessman, so any decision could not be separated from profit. Even if the situation had already spiraled out of his control, as long as there were profits to be made, he was willing to agree to Feng Zhao's conditions. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Prairie Fire's chief editor's office. Qian Chung had not been in a good mood these past 2 days because there was a piece of news he had wanted to dig up. He had sent quite a number of people to guard District 79, but alive after 500 years had run off to District 78. He had thought of ways to transfer people to District 78, but there had been no sign of him. Still no movement from Silverwing? Qian Chung asked his subordinates. No, a staff member replied. The others in the editorial department were also curious. That's not right. They haven't even released a smoke bomb. This is not Silverwing's style. Based on their thinking, shouldn't they be praising the person who dominates the global leaderboard? In the past, didn't Silverwing like to hype things up whenever something happened? Instead, why are they mute at this time? Or is there some shady business behind the reason for their position at the top of the leaderboard? Qian Chung shook his head in silence. He also could not understand why Silverwing could be so calm this time. I suddenly have a bad premonition, Qian Chung said. I keep feeling that Silverwing is planning something big again. As he pondered, Qian Chung instructed, don't let down your guard at Silverwing. Keep a close eye on them. Do we still need to arrange for more people in District 78 and 79? Someone asked. There's a lot of big news in the other districts, so we don't have enough manpower. Qian Chung thought for a moment. Leave a few more people in District 78. You can transfer the people in District 79 to other districts. Just leave a few people to keep an eye on that area. While everyone was busy, in a building on the west side of District 79, a figure leaned against the wall, carefully moving, afraid to make the slightest sound. After moving a little, he would stop and pay close attention to his surroundings. After listening to his surroundings without moving, the man lowered his voice and said, Hello, everyone. I am your old friend, Strong Bubbles. Welcome to Bubbles' live broadcast. My current location is an old-era furniture city. This was a webcast host. In Battle of the Century, there were also people who started a live broadcast. However, to start a live broadcast, one had to apply for permission, and Fiery Bird's approval department had to approve it. Not everyone could start a live broadcast. This host had a good reputation and even had a live broadcast license. However, he did not broadcast games in the past. He broadcast eating, drinking, having fun, and sightseeing tours. However, as the number of people who broadcast eating, drinking, and having fun increased, the competition became too intense. There was no shortage of people in the same industry who risked their lives for popularity, such as venturing to dangerous mountain peaks or jungles, or diving into the deep sea to explore the beauty of the deep sea. He did not have the courage to risk his life, so the number of people watching his live broadcast decreased. This time, the investment for Battle of the Century was huge. The production was excellent, and the realism was strong. Gaming hosts broadcast how to play games, but he was different. He was just using this game to start a new journey in his live broadcast. The world of the old era was undoubtedly new to the people of the new era. Therefore, after the transition, this host had not expected that the number of people watching his live broadcast would increase. Some were old fans, while others were newcomers who did not play games but were curious about the world of the game. Many of the new viewers were minors. Minors were not allowed to log into Battle of the Century, so they could only watch the live broadcast every day. Some people were interested in the live broadcast of fighting monsters, while others were not. They preferred Bubbles' live broadcast style, which was slightly more peaceful and stimulating. It was like another kind of life regulator, and it was quite enjoyable to watch. The latter type was not limited to non-gamers. There were also some gamers who, due to work or other tasks, could not log into the game, so they watched all sorts of live broadcasts to satisfy their cravings. As an experienced host, Strong Bubbles had chosen a good location. His studio had provided him with a few accounts to choose from. He had chosen District 79 not because of anything else, but because the login point for District 79 was near the Furniture City. Some of the monsters were still half inside the buildings. Only their heads could be seen, and they were shot dead. Bang! Immediately after that, another gunshot rang out. The bullet passed through the gap in the window on the right side of the building and hit another monster inside. Bang, bang, bang. One by one, the monsters were shot dead. At this moment, they had reached the intersection. Monsters were running from all four sides of the street. This short moment brought with it a tidal wave of pressure. If it were someone else, even if they had 4 guns, it would be useless. They would not make it in time. However, the person on the motorcycle did not show any fear. Screech! The tires rubbed against the ground, creating a long, sharp sound. The motorcycle swung and slid forward. Together with the motorcycle, it was like a mad dragon stirring up the wind and rain. The muzzle of the gun kept spewing out fatal killing intent. As the motorcycle spun, the gun in the rider's hand was only a flying shadow. It was so fast that one could not see the gun clearly. One could only see the flames shooting out from the center of the storm. The surroundings were filled with the thick smell of gunpowder, as if it contained explosive energy. The speed of the monsters was not slow either, but killed with one shot. This was the meeting of 2 waves. However, the result was simply a complete sweep. One person faced the monsters on all 4 sides. His firepower was suppressing them, and the monsters could not get close at all. It was as if every shot and every movement had been carefully calculated. His precise judgment and strong mental fortitude left people speechless. Everyone watching the live stream stopped what they were doing and stared at the screen without blinking. They even forgot to breathe and clenched their fists as if they were in the middle of the live stream. Some people couldn't help but scream out loud. During the process of turning, the opponent could accurately shoot the monsters' heads. Even if they were on the motorcycle, they might not be able to easily shoot the monsters' bodies, let alone their heads. What kind of strength was this? After a storm of shooting, the black motorcycle bypassed the corpses on the ground and left. The gunshots did not stop. For that person, the battle was not over. However, the gunshots quickly moved away from the intersection, leaving behind the angry and unwilling roars of the monsters that rushed over after hearing the gunshots. The host swallowed his saliva and carefully moved his body back into the room, closing the window. When he closed the window, his hands were still trembling. His emotions had not fully recovered from the scene just now. From the moment the rider appeared in the host's line of sight to the moment it disappeared, less than half a minute had passed. Many people watching the live broadcast had a layer of sweat on their backs. Their muscles were stiff from the excessive tension just now, and they could not recover for a long time. In the chat room of Bubble's live broadcast channel, the audience finally recovered and exploded. Fuck! That driving skill, sliding and turning 360 degrees to shoot at the same time. My, bro. That street version of the T-Rex has been verified. This is the 3rd T-Rex that has appeared in our Yenjo since the start of the game, but this is the first person to drive a T-Rex into the air. Awesome. Yesterday, I got a normal motorcycle from an underground garage. I wasn't stable and fell and fractured my bones. Luckily, it was just a game. After an afternoon of treatment, I'm still alive and kicking. Now, watching someone drive like that, I feel goosebumps all over my body. I'm afraid I'll fall the next moment. I missed the previous part. It was sliding and turning 360 degrees to shoot at the same time. Just now, when he was turning and shooting, he switched guns. I don't know how many times he switched, but judging from the sound, it's definitely a different gun model. Just now, I think I saw a few monsters get stopped in their leaping motions. It must have been caused after he switched guns, like a shotgun or something. It was just that it was too fast. My eyes couldn't keep up. Did you guys clearly see the way he switched guns? I didn't see it clearly at all. Bubbles, did you record that video just now? Slow it down. I want to know how many times he switched guns in that short period of sliding and turning. At that time, he actually switched guns? Even a tenth of a second delay could result in failure and death, not to mention the possible consequences of switching guns wrongly. My dad asked me why I was kneeling while watching the live broadcast. Godly operation. Don't talk about accuracy. He switched guns so quickly. Could he have made a mistake? The last time I encountered a monster, I had intended to switch to a shotgun, but in the end, I was too excited. When I pulled out my gun and was about to pull the trigger, I realized I was pulling out a chicken drumstick. At that time, I was so scared that I threw the drumstick away. The consequences of not tidying up the game back. The brother who switched guns and turned them into drumsticks, did the drumstick monster eat that chicken drumstick? I don't know. At that time, I was too busy running and didn't dare to look back. Hey, don't change the topic. Back to business. Did you guys think that person just now looked a little familiar? I couldn't see clearly because he was wearing a helmet, but he did look a little familiar, like I've seen him somewhere before. Although the helmet wasn't a motorcycle helmet and the clothes weren't a motorcycle suit, don't you guys think that this person looked a little like the mystery person who raced with 2S and Boom a month ago? Especially the sliding and turning at the intersection. The difference is that last time he turned 180 degrees. This time he turned 360 degrees. He didn't raise his tail, but he switched guns and shot. Seeing his shooting, I only thought of the mythical character of District 79, alive after 500 years. In District 79, it seems like only he can create such a sweeping effect. TSK, I finally got to see the point sweeping ability of the top player on the leaderboards. But now that I heard you guys mention it, this person is the mystery person who stepped on Kuzimo and Olaf during 2S and Boom's practice match last month? Chapter 138. If the mysterious person who had appeared at 3S and Boom last month was the same person as alive after 500 years who had appeared at the top of the leaderboards in District 79, then they have been at each other's throats from the start. To go up against the Big Five, not only did one need guts, one also needed strength to back it up. Over the years, over at Yenzhou, although there had been people who had attacked and shaken the position of the Big Five, in the end, they had still managed to stand firm. Now, there was another person who possessed both strength and guts. Or perhaps, it could be said that the unknown power supported by Silver Wing had long declared war on the Big Five. This was what many people guessed. Regardless of whether the truth was the same as what everyone guessed, that day in District 79 was destined to be an extraordinary day. The commotion was not small, and many gamers had seen the figure riding a heavy-duty motorcycle and sweeping up points like a torrential storm. He's back again. That point-sweeping machine is actually back again. He's sweeping points to the point of insanity. This is the first time I've personally witnessed the point-sweeping ability of the top player on the leaderboards. Respect. Coming online this time was worth it. When many gamers in District 79 heard the concentrated gunfire, they knew that the god had returned from District 78. Furthermore, he had appeared on Yenzhou's 3rd Street version of the T-Rex. The point-sweeping was even more intense than the previous time. The chief editor of the popular media company Prairie Fire, Qian Cheng, was regretting his decision. He had just transferred a batch of people away from District 79. He had originally thought that the other party would not appear in District 79 for the time being, so he had only left a few people to keep an eye on District 79. On the other hand, he had released quite a number of people over at District 78. In the end, when he had turned around, he had heard the commotion in District 79. He had hurriedly transferred people over to District 79, but after all, he had still missed it. What he had been able to capture was limited. The various reporters camped in District 79 had managed to capture a few pictures, but because they had not been sufficiently prepared, they were not as detailed and exciting as the Lucky Bubbles live broadcast host's photos. After that, the staff of Bubbles' live broadcast studio made an urgent video. They slowed down a few of the recorded scenes and analyzed them. Then, they broadcast it in the afternoon through the live broadcast channel. At that time, I maintained a posture of worship and sent him off with my eyes. Too awesome. The host, Bubbles, did not exaggerate his praise. Even now, when he recalled that scene, his emotions still surged. He wasn't a fan of games, but this was the first time he had experienced that kind of excitement as a bystander. The players who had already received the news also searched for Bubbles' live stream channel to watch the situation that they couldn't see, especially those who weren't in District 79. They could only see the various media outlets fighting to report on the District 79 point sweep incident, but those reports either had bad angles or only had pictures. They were so rushed that they could only hear the intense sounds of explosions and blurry images. As soon as he saw the message that Bubbles had broadcasted, he rushed over. Many people who were originally playing the game temporarily went offline to watch the game. They wanted to see what kind of situation the media had described as a godly operation. Because the video had been edited, some key scenes were slowed down so that everyone could clearly see what had happened in that short instant. Terrifying. Is he still fucking human? If I hadn't seen this video, if so many people hadn't seen it with their own eyes, I would have doubted its authenticity. If I didn't slow down the video, I wouldn't have been able to see his hand movements at all, and I wouldn't have noticed him changing his spear. He did it too quickly. 3 times? He could actually change his spear 3 times at that time? Furthermore, every time he did it, he had a purpose. If you look closely at his shots, you can see how strong his willpower is. I just stared at the slow motion of him loading the gun with one hand. It was so cool. Too bad the monster was in the way, so I couldn't see the gun completely. Does anyone know the model of that crappy shotgun? I picked up a similar one once, but I couldn't use it, so I threw it away. Now I'm trying to remember where I threw it. I picked up a similar one before, but I don't know if it's the same model. Many guns from the old era looked similar, so this one was too much of a hassle to use. I originally planned to throw it away, but now I've changed my mind. I heard that's the #1 player on the leaderboard, alive after 500 years. It's definitely him. Pay attention to the leaderboard refresh. His points have increased by quite a bit again. Every time it refreshes, I feel shocked. At first, I thought his points sweep on the first day was already ridiculous enough, but who knew that there would be even more? That's the power of the #1 player on the leaderboard. Where's the guy who said that he was cheating? Where's the guy who said that he had a studio or team backing him up and used unseen methods to rush up the leaderboard? If you have the guts, come out and loudly repeat what you just said. Who can do this kind of operation? There's no other person who can sweep up points like this, right? I dare say that as long as he goes online to sweep up points, he will be the king of the leaderboard. If he is overtaken one day, it will definitely be because he doesn't want to play anymore. On the internet, no one who saw the video could remain calm, including the professional esports players who had gone offline to rest. They were all dumbfounded. How was this something a studio had promoted? This was completely an individual strength. The number of people watching Bubbles' livestream kept increasing. Within half an hour, the number of views went from 6 digits to 8 digits, and it looked like it was about to hit 9 digits. And this was only half an hour later. It's going to be popular. Someone from the studio said excitedly, "Bubbles, you made the right choice. Doing a live stream in this game is indeed more promising than before. Look, you've only been playing for a few days, and the opportunity has come." Another person said to the host who had just gone offline, "There are advertisers who want to work with us. Oh, there's also a media company who wants to buy our news. Send it, send it. We're going to be rich this time. Wait. Don't reply to those first. Business is here." Rising Dragon's editor-in-chief left us a private message. Rising Dragon? That's the world's largest online gaming community? Yes, that's them. Looking at the message, it's verified. It's definitely them. They want to buy the exclusive rights to the original video, and the price is very high. The person from Bubbles Studio saw the other party's offer, and his voice trembled. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't have the right to decide, he might have already agreed. In the end, Rising Dragon bought the exclusive right to use the video at a high price that no one in Bubbles' live streaming studio could refuse. That was to say, apart from Bubbles' live streaming, only Rising Dragon could use the video they shot in the entire world. Thus, the next day, in Rising Dragon's daily news section, the headline was the crazy killing scene of sliding at the crossroads and then turning 360 degrees to shoot. And it was very likely to be the best of the week. Behind this video were the crazed screams of gamers all over the world who saw the news. They wanted nothing more than to kneel on the spot. The people who did flying stunts were excited, and all of them imitated the sliding and turning 360 degrees. Some people saw a business opportunity and started a training class to teach those who were interested how to do it. However, this was only in the game. In reality, people would die if they tried it. Even if someone was willing to try it, the stuntmen didn't dare to teach them. Gamers who liked to play shooting games were also excited, and there was a trend of competing to see who could shoot the most targets in 3 shots. Gun enthusiasts were also interested, and they analyzed which gun model could be loaded with one hand, as well as how to use each gun correctly. However, whether it was the flying stuntmen, professional shooters, or gun enthusiasts, none of them could do all 3 at the same time. Either they crashed the car, or they lost the gun. If they weren't careful while changing the gun, they might even break their fingers, not to mention shooting accurately. The more they understood the technical difficulty of these operations, the more they felt that the person was like a god. With the appearance of the video and the analysis of various industry experts, the doubtful voices from before gradually subsided. On the Battle of the Century global leaderboard, alive after 500 years' individual experience points had gone up by a large chunk in half a day. He had already closed the gap between him and the person in second place, but the moment he refreshed, the gap widened again. In Majo, as a world-renowned gold medal shooting star and an athlete from a shooting family, Massiere simply lost his temper after seeing that video. Massiere was confident that he could win a shooting competition in real life, but in the game, he didn't have the confidence to win. Not to mention shooting, just that short period of time when the car was sliding and spinning, the maneuvers of switching guns and shooting accurately were simply perfect. Every maneuver had been timed perfectly. Massiere had watched the video in slow motion for an hour, but he still couldn't find anything to criticize. That kind of confidence and marksmanship wasn't something a studio could produce. That was a true powerhouse, a powerhouse. Massiere still respected powerhouses, and the gloominess from being stepped on had dissipated quite a bit. However, he wouldn't give up on reaching the top of the leaderboard. District 79 was bustling again. There were people from this continent and people from other continents, using all sorts of methods to rush to District 79. And just as many people wanted to get a closer look at that god, the entertainment reporters crouched at the best filming locations, once again pounced on empty air. West District, any movement? No, what about your North District? Also nothing. Nothing in the East District either. Other than those in the South District trying to steal the news, there's nothing else. After that crazy sweep, District 79 once again fell into a strange tranquility. Although there were still players shooting monsters everywhere, compared to the howling wind and torrential rain that day, it was indeed considered peaceful. However, behind this tranquility were countless crazed entertainment reporters and web hosts. It was like this for 2 consecutive days. Not even a shadow of the other party had appeared. Instead, there were quite a number of death-seeking players who imitated that rider to kill monsters. There were also those who switched guns too frequently and missed their timing, failing to show off and getting killed instead. There were at least 3 or 4 examples a day. This was just a joke. There was nothing explosive about it. Entertainment reporters didn't want this. Chapter 139. In a small town near a mountainous region in western Yinzhou, inside an ordinary residential building, former 2S esports club captain Jinro had just picked up his son from kindergarten and his wife from work. When he got home, he did not even change out of his clothes and shoes. He rushed to his workroom, turned on the news of Rising Dragon on his computer, and once again watched the video. That day, when he had received the news, he had gone to watch Bubble's live stream. However, Bubble's livestream was hosted by amateurs, and the video handling and commentary were not suitable for professional gamers. After Rising Dragon had bought the video, the commentary had become even more detailed. 2 days had passed, and the video's popularity had not died down. Every day, professional game reviewers from every continent posted their analysis. Sure enough, when he refreshed the page, new comments appeared, and the video was replayed along with the comments. His control is too strong. No matter how many times he watched it, Jinro would still sigh. Playing well with guns in real life did not necessarily mean that he could do the same in the game. To play well in a holographic game, one did not rely on physical fitness, but on the brain. One had to have the mental support. If one's control was lacking, then it was not you playing the game, but the game playing you. There were still differences between reality and games. This was also why many people who were not physically fit in the real world could run amok in games. Just by looking at the speed at which the person in the video had switched guns and his shooting reflexes, one could tell that his control and control were definitely God level. Dominating the throne of solo champion was indeed backed by ability and not an undeserved reputation. Whether or not he had the support of a team behind him, this person was undoubtedly an expert. But what Jinro was puzzled about was that this person's control did not seem like a newcomer, but he had never heard of such a godlike person in the gaming circles. He had appeared without warning, and he had even asked his friends who specialized in shooting games, but none of them had heard of this person. It was impossible to guess who the real person was. 2 days had passed, and there was still no news on who alive after 500 years was. Just as he was thinking, Jinro's communications device rang. "Hello, Screwdriver. What's up? Isn't it about the god-level player at the top of the leaderboards? Any news?" "Nope. I've asked everyone I know, and none of them know," Jinro replied. Sigh. The voice on the other end was also regretful. "I really wish I could meet him. You can also go to Qian City to look. Maybe you can find someone there?" Jinro suggested. "I'm too busy and can't leave. Business has been good recently, and the equipment you helped me get sold for quite a bit. When the time comes, I'll send the bill and money to your account." Sigh. I was almost led astray by you. I also wanted to ask you. Recently there have been a lot of clubs contacting you, right? Not even one of them? Nope. They are willing to pay for the breach of contract. However, the internal problems of those clubs are not small. They are not willing to give up their power and hope that I can change the situation by going over. How is that possible? The silence on the other side was a little longer. You've retired for almost 8 years. Do you really intend to wait another 2 years? Back then, Jinro had clashed with 2S esports club's leader because of a problem with the team's decision-making. He had been shelved and then terminated his contract. Based on the situation back then, even if Jinro wanted to leave, he would have had to pay a hefty breach of contract. However, 2S had been willing to let him go and had negotiated the breach of contract with Jinro. It had not been too ugly. Not only had there been internal and external pressure, but more importantly, Jinro had agreed to sign a 10-year contract. That was to say, within 10 years, Jinro would not sign a contract with any professional esports club in Yenzhou. Otherwise, it would be considered a breach of contract. If not for this clause, 2S would not have let him go so easily. Even if they valued favors, they were, after all, a commercial esports club. In the face of profit, favors really did not count for much. Therefore, if Jinro wanted to sign a contract with another esports club, he had to get the new owner to help him pay a hefty breach of contract. Based on Jinro's status and influence in the esports circles back then, out of the 4 big esports clubs in Yenzhou, other than 2S, 2 were willing to sign him and settle the breach of contract, but Jinro had rejected all of them. Although other esports clubs and companies had approached him over the next few years, and some private studios had also contacted him, Jinro had never agreed to any of them. Now, he only worked with a few small teams, such as proxy training or selling equipment. Those studios were all run by old friends who had helped him out during the most difficult times of terminating his contract. After things had settled down, Jinro had also helped them out a little, getting good equipment to sell at their studios. He could earn money, and other than splitting the profits, the other studio could also increase its reputation. But as someone who had started out as a professional esports player, under the circumstances where his skills had not deteriorated, no one was willing to continue like this. Especially with the launch of Battle of the Century, Jinro had indeed had thoughts of signing an esports club. This time, he had carefully considered a few, but he had not found a suitable one. When he looked at esports clubs now, he did not look at their rankings, but at their potential and internal management. Due to various reasons and restrictions, he had registered a Fiery Bird account a long time ago and had not logged into Battle of the Century even once. He had used other accounts to practice and get equipment to sell. Decide quickly. This time, Battle of the Century is imitating the course of history. History will not repeat itself. If you miss a step, then it's gone. There's no way to make up for it. Don't tell me you still want to survive in the game with an alternate account? The person on the other end of the communicator suggested. Jinro laughed helplessly. Of course I know that. A new message notification appeared. Jinro saw that there was a new private message. He opened it and saw that the contents of the message were Battle of the Century from a District 79 account, a login password, a coordinate, and a time. At the end of the message was a note from the sender, alive after 500 years. Jinro stared at the ID as though he was trying to determine whether it was real or fake. The person on the other end of the communicator was still talking, but after waiting for a long time for Jinro to reply, he was dissatisfied. Hey Jinro, are you still listening? Hey. Sorry, I have something urgent to do. I'll hang up first. After saying that, Jinro ended the call and sat in the game capsule. He entered the account and password given in the message. After logging in, he discovered that he was indeed in District 79. When he checked the account, there was only one friend, alive after 500 years. Furthermore, the character settings of this account were the height and build that Jinro usually used. It was actually true. The person who had contacted him was really the #1 player on the global leaderboards, alive after 500 years. There were quite a few guns and knives in the account. Apart from these, the other party had also mentioned that he could prepare his own weapons. What did this mean? A declaration of war? That was not necessary. The other party was the #1 player on the global leaderboards. There was no need for a declaration of war. Even if they wanted to declare war, they wouldn't find someone like him who had kept a low profile in the gaming circles for so many years. So, what did the other party mean? Could it be? Thinking of a possibility, Jinro's breathing quickened. There were a few rules in the gaming circles that everyone knew. For example, if a newcomer wanted to join a team, the team leader or a core member of the team would conduct an assessment. Professional teams could not be admitted just because someone recommended them. They had to go through an assessment and obtain approval before they could be accepted into the team. Most of the time, they followed this method, setting a time, setting a location, and starting a battle. So, did the other party have the same intention? In a city in southern Yenzhou, inside a rather popular succulent plant shop. A man with a body as sturdy as a human tank, wearing work clothes, was carrying a pot of cactus the size of a human head as he walked around the shop, checking out the goods. The notification of a new message sounded. He placed the cactus on the shelf and checked the message. Then, he froze in the same position as if he was frozen. After a while, his neck stiffly twisted and he looked at the plants on the shelf beside him before immediately turning back to look at the new message. The muscles on his face tightened and trembled, but he did not seem to know what expression to make. Overall, he looked very strange. Following that, he hurriedly ran into the inner part of the shop. There was a gaming helmet that he occasionally used when looking after the shop. In a certain university dormitory in northern Yenzhou. In a 4-person dormitory, everyone had their own room. At this moment, the door to the room was open. 3 of them were squeezed in the living room watching movies, and the remaining one was sleeping in his room. The sleeping one had been gaming all night, and the rest of the dormitory did not find it strange. They had even heard that this roommate, who was especially good at gaming, was about to sign a contract with a certain gaming club, and they all wanted him to treat them to a celebration after signing. The 3 of them were watching a movie in the living room. Just as they were engrossed in the movie, they heard a thump in the room, as if someone had fallen from the bed. Schwarzer, what's wrong? No. Nothing, but I can dream. The person inside sounded a little absent-minded. The 3 in the living room did not think much of it. They were still thinking, has this kid become stupid from gaming? He doesn't even know if he's dreaming. Meanwhile, the person who had fallen from the bed looked at the message on his communication device and could not help but sigh. Fuck. In a certain coastal city in Yenzhou. Inside a restaurant, A father and son were sitting facing each other at a table in the corner. 2S, Transcendence, Big Dipper, Boom, and HWR have all sent out invitations. Which one will you choose? As the biological father and manager, he could not help but feel anxious for his son. Such a good opportunity, and the competition is so fierce. If you don't decide quickly, someone else will snatch it. What's the rush? A young man with a pair of large earphones around his neck leaned forward unhurriedly. He bit on the straw in his drink bottle and sucked on it for fun. He did not seem to take his father's words to heart, but he still leisurely explained to his father, "I don't want to go to the Big Five yet. The competition there is too intense. If I enter now, I will only start from Team 2 or 3. If that's the case, I might as well join a slightly inferior club. Maybe I can enter the main team straight away. I still feel that you should enter the Big Five. Given your ability, you can definitely jump from Team 2 or 3 to the main team very quickly. After all, it's the Big Five. However, if you want to enter the main team of another club, that's fine too. You better hurry up and choose. What's the rush? Let me see a message first." The young man continued to slurp his drink loudly, challenging his father's hearing. Even his biological father could not stand his son's behavior. He wanted to give him a slap, but just as he was about to reprimand him, he saw his son suddenly spit out a mouthful of drink. With an anxious expression, he got up and ran out. Go, go, go. What happened? I want to find a computer to log in. There's so much food and we haven't finished eating. Why are you in such a hurry? Hurry. I'm in a hurry now. Let me first search for any gaming internet cafes nearby and log in. That won't do. There's no guarantee of safety in gaming cafes. Let's go back. Chapter 140. The coordinates were at the edge of District 79, a little far from the city center. There were no other people in sight, and there were many factory buildings on the side of the road. Most players would not stay here for long because there was no food here. To survive in the game, one still needed food to support them. After Jinro logged in, he headed for the coordinates. The account's login location was not too far from the coordinates, about 2 kilometers. For other newbies or players with weaker skills, it would be very difficult for them to cross 1 kilometer safely. This was probably a preliminary test given by the other party. Jinro thought to himself. Thinking back to the video of Alive after 500 years, riding a heavy-duty motorcycle and clearing monsters on the streets, it was clear that the other party could have moved the account's login location to the destination. However, the other party did not do so. Since the account's login location was 2 kilometers away from the destination, it was probably to test his ability. If he could not even cross 2 kilometers safely, the other party would probably not bother with him anymore. The other party had given him a time of 10 in the morning the day after tomorrow. However, after Jinro logged in using the account's information, he went straight to the destination. Along the way, he took some time to avoid and deal with the mutated beasts. When he arrived, he did not see anyone. There were not many dangers in the building at the coordinates. At least, when Jinro arrived, he did not see any mutated people or beasts. It was as if someone had cleaned it up. As for who had cleaned it up, did it need to be said? Other than Alive after 500 years, there was probably no one else. This kind of cleaning style could only be that god. This building had 5 floors, and all 5 floors had been cleaned up. Not even a single room or a small warehouse was left untouched. Jinro circled around, but other than a few small monsters, he did not find anything else. The other party had probably cleaned the building not too long ago, as there were not many new monsters that had entered. Just as he finished his inspection, Jinro noticed that another person had arrived. His gaze swept over the other party. There were some bloodstains on his body, but not much. His movements were very agile, and in the blink of an eye, he had silently flipped over the 3-meter-tall wall outside the building. However, he was not alive after 500 years. That person did not have that kind of aura. Could it be someone else who had received the same message as him? Thinking of this, Jinro did not hide. He just stood there and waited for the other party to go upstairs, but he did not let his guard down. If the other party was not what he guessed and showed signs of aggression, he would be able to defend himself immediately. When the other party saw Jinro, he stopped in his tracks, evidently not expecting there to be someone else here. However, he quickly revealed his excitement and walked over quickly. "May I ask if you are alive after 500 years? "Hello, I am. I'm not." Schwarzer was just about to introduce himself when he heard the other party deny it. He was instantly disappointed. "You're not? Then what are you doing here?" "I received a message and came over." Jinro still did not let down his guard. When Schwarzer heard this, he immediately tossed aside his disappointment and said excitedly, "Me too. I came here as soon as I received the news. The place where I landed is 2 kilometers away from here, so it took me some time to get here." Same. Jinro was even more surprised. He had guessed that the other party had also been invited. The other party's words and actions made him seem like a newcomer in the industry, but this person's ability could not be underestimated. 2 kilometers was not easy for an esports newbie, but the other party did not seem to have any injuries and seemed very relaxed. "I thought I was the only one who was invited." Schwarzer looked around. "Is there anyone else?"
Yes.
Jinro looked out the window. Schwarzer followed his line of sight. Outside the building, there was a person standing on the wall, spinning a handgun in his hand and also looking at them. That person did not look special, or perhaps there was nothing special about the character settings of the account. Schwarzer had no way of identifying the other party, but his intuition told him that this person would not be easy to deal with. Clack! The sound of shoes and boots stepping on the floor rang out. Schwarzer looked toward the entrance of the hall. There stood a tall and sturdy person like an iron tower. He had a murderous aura about him, but he did not know if it was because he had killed his way here, or if he had an innate murderous aura. It was clearly a big guy, but before the sound, Schwarzer had not even noticed when the other party had come up the stairs. Who was this? Schwarzer glanced at the big guy who had just walked in. Black Wizard? Jinro was even more surprised this time. Black Mage Milo was also an expert at switching weapons extremely quickly. He had some fame in the esports circle, and his rise to fame was around the same time as Jinro's. Black Mage was his usual ID, and many people in the gaming circle only recognized his ID. There were many who knew of Black Mage, but few knew his real name, Milo. The big guy Milo's gaze sized up Jinro and Schwarzer for 2 seconds before finally stopping on Jinro. "Former captain of 2's main team, Jinro? You can actually recognize me." Jinro was not too surprised that Milo had guessed his identity. Milo's intuition was very accurate. Even if it was only in the game, he could see through appearances and see the essence. "Why haven't you left yet?" Milo's tone was doubtful. "Your legend has long since disappeared from the game. I didn't think you would actually be invited here." Then he looked at Schwarzer. "Who is this kid? And who's that kid behind him?" Behind Milo, the person who had been twirling his gun on the wall had also come to the building. Jinro looked out the window. They probably received the message and came over. Whoosh! A lithe figure entered through the window. Her short hair was dyed in camouflage. It was a woman, someone both Jinro and Milo recognized. Jasmine? Jinro was flabbergasted more than once today. Milo and Jasmine were both independent players who had never joined any teams or gangs. On the major gaming leaderboards, their individual battle prowess could rank in Yinzhou's top 50. For independent players, the top 50 was indeed not easy. Previously, Jinro had guessed that Alive After 500 Years had called them over to test them and pull them into the team, but Milo and Jasmine's appearance had made Jinro doubt his guess. What exactly did Alive After 500 Years mean? Schwarzer looked out the window and then at Jasmine. This was the 3rd floor. How had they climbed up from the outside? After Jasmine entered through the window, she scanned the area and frowned. As if she did not see the others sizing her up, she went to a corner and stood there. The big guy Milo asked, "You also received the message? Alive After 500 Years actually invited you? If you can come, why can't I? I'm even ahead of you on the leaderboards." The one called Jasmine uttered a rare long sentence. "I have to take care of the shop and don't have much time." "Yes, you're busy." find another excuse in the future. As independent players, Milo and Jasmine were more familiar with each other. Seeing that they were all well-known figures in the gaming circles and seniors, Schwarzer started to get nervous. His professional esports career had yet to officially begin, and he could not even be considered a newcomer in the gaming circles. At most, he could be considered an intern. He did not dare interrupt when seniors were talking, so he turned his gaze to the person standing at the door. From what Milo had said, this person was also a little devil. "Hello, I'm Schwarzer. I received the message and came over. May I ask who you are?" Schwarzer asked warmly. The person standing at the door looked over. "Idiot from Beijing University of Finance?" The warm smile on Schwarzer's face disappeared in an instant, and he looked at him like he was looking at a piece of trash. Ocean University's bedbug? Hearing their conversation, Jinro understood. Yinbei University of Finance and Yinzhou Ocean University were two of Yinzhou's top 4 in esports. Even at their worst, they were still in the top 8. These two schools were old rivals, and they even had some conflicts. It was no wonder these two were speaking in such a manner. Schwarzer had made a name for himself in the first half of the year, and it was rumored that many esports clubs had already extended an olive branch to him. As for the other person from Ocean University, although Jinro could not confirm his name, he was definitely a skilled newcomer. After the 5 of them, another 3 people appeared. One was from HWR Esports Club's first team. Their contract had expired, and they had yet to negotiate a new contract. Many parties wanted to poach them, but unexpectedly, they had also come. Jinro could not confirm the identities of the other 2, and they did not say anything. Confused guessed that they were probably people from the amateur gaming circles. Whether professional or amateur, whether they were rookies or veterans, everyone had initially thought that they were the only ones who had received the message. Unexpectedly, there were other players besides themselves. Schwarzer suggested that they take a look around the building. At this moment, the 9th person appeared. He was dressed in a combat uniform from the period of destruction. He was not wearing a helmet, and there were 2 scars on his face. At first glance, he did not look special. His gaze was calm, but anyone who was swept by it would feel a strong sense of oppression. Jinro rarely had such an experience. The last time was when he had been facing his own teacher. However, after so many years, he had led teams himself, and he had gone from a rookie to a senior. But now, facing this person, he still felt a pressure that came from the bottom of his heart. Milo's pupils constricted. He was certain that he had never seen this person before, but he was 100% certain that this was that, alive after 500 years? The 8 of them asked almost simultaneously. Before this, they had all wondered what kind of person the person who occupied the top spot on the global leaderboards was. How could they recognize him? But now they knew that when they actually saw him, there was no need to think about anything else. A voice in their hearts told them, "This is him." Schwarzer was so excited that his voice was trembling. He shuffled his 2 legs over. "Egod, hello." Before logging into the game, Schwarzer had prepared a lot of questions, but now, he was stuck after just 1 sentence. The 8 of them fell silent. It was not that they did not want to say anything. They had prepared a bellyful of questions, but now, they suddenly felt afraid to open their mouths, especially when the other party's gaze swept over. Not bad speed. Fang Zhao looked at the 8 people present and felt satisfied. He had gone online an hour after sending the message. He had wondered if anyone would wait until the day after tomorrow to arrive. He had not expected that all 8 of them would arrive. At this moment, the 8 of them were still silent, but they had a strange feeling in their hearts. Were they being praised? They actually felt a little excited. The 8 of them, who had been at a loss as to why they felt this way, were jolted back to reality by the other party's next sentence. "I'll give you a chance to kill me," Fang Zhao said. "The day after tomorrow at 10 a.m., right here. There are no other restrictions." For many professional esports gamers, the greatest sense of accomplishment was not how many points they could obtain in the end, but rather, killing a powerful opponent. Even Schwarzer, who had always chased after famous stars in the esports circles, wanted to kill his own idols at least once. Back when he had been in his second year of middle school, Schwarzer had issued a challenge to a few esports stars he had idolized. Unfortunately, he had been drowned in the vast sea of information, and no one had paid attention to him. Now that he was in college and had grown up, he could come into contact with more competitive games, and the esports stars he idolized had changed. Now, he had just started idolizing Alive, after 500 years when he heard the other party giving him this kind of opportunity. Excitement. Excitement. Who wants to withdraw? Fang Zhao asked. Not a single one of the 8 uttered a word, but their eyes were filled with impatience. It was impossible to remain calm when sparring with the #1 expert on the global leaderboards. They were also wondering if they could kill this god that had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. No one would choose to withdraw at this time. Very well, Fang Zhao continued. If anyone isn't satisfied with their account settings, you can switch to a more convenient account. Still, no one uttered a word. Because the accounts and character settings Fang Zhao had given them were all based on their usual settings, there was indeed no need to switch. Since there are no problems, then you are dismissed. You can familiarize yourselves with the venue. This is my first time here as well. What he meant was that in terms of familiarity with this place, he and the other 8 people present had started out pretty much the same. The only difference was that he had swept this place in the morning. Schwarzer almost couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. On the way here, he had noticed that he hadn't seen a single mutated person or beast. Swept all of them? No wonder this person's points on the leaderboards had dropped again. Seeing that the other party was about to go offline, Jinro hurriedly spoke up. Please wait a moment. Jinro stared at the other person's gaze and asked, This is the assessment you gave? If we pass, will you invite us to join your team? He had even subconsciously used the word sir when addressing Fang Zhao. This question was also what the others wanted to know. Regarding this, Fang Zhao did not hide it. Yes, his objective was to recruit new members. Jinro let out a long sigh of relief. As long as he got this answer, it would be fine. Then what if I want to participate in your assessment but don't want to join your team? Big Milo, a well-known unaffiliated player in the gaming circles, Black Mage, asked. Fang Zhao glanced at him. It doesn't matter. Just give it another beating. The 8. Chapter 141. In his 20 years of professional esports career, this was the first time Jinro had heard someone speak to him like this. This tone was the same as when he used to scare his son by saying, If you don't listen, I'll beat you up. After 500 years disappeared, the 8 of them finally broke the silence. He wants to beat me up? Milo repeated as if he had heard a joke. He had originally been a little fearful of Alive after 500 years, but now he was very angry. Is he threatening me? I want to see if he will teach me a lesson the day after tomorrow, or if I will kill him. Milo's eyes were spitting fire. It was not just because of the other party's arrogant words. As a veteran gamer, he also wanted to kill the person who occupied the top spot on the leaderboards. The others also had fighting spirit in their eyes, but there was only one alive after 500 years. There were 8 of them, and they only had one chance. It all depended on who was faster and more capable. Was the scar on his face intentional? Schwarzer asked curiously. It looks a little familiar, as if I have seen it somewhere before. HWR Esports Club's Dorian had a pensive look on his face. Seeing the others look over, Dorian spread his hands. I only said it looks familiar, as if I have seen it somewhere before. As for who it is, I still can't remember. He should not be young, Milo said. The other party gave him the feeling of a senior, especially that imposing manner and the pressure he exerted. It did not seem like something a young person could do. MMHM, Jinro nodded in agreement. This also made him even more suspicious. Even though he had retired, he had always been well informed in the gaming circles. He had never heard of such a person. Forget it. I want to scout out the area first. Schwarzer could not wait to start his counterattack. Beft, Jake from Yinzhou Ocean University, who did not get along with Schwarzer, sneered. He did not say much and left to familiarize himself with the area. He could not let Schwarzer kill alive, after 500 years in front of him. This building was not big, and it would not take much time to familiarize oneself with the area. However, it was not small either. There were many hidden areas that could be tampered with, and there were also quite a few suitable hiding spots. As the 8 of them busied themselves in the target building, Fang Zhao went offline for another 2 days. He received a few calls from Wayne, the manager of the gaming department. Wayne was very concerned about Fang Zhao's progress, but after a few days, not a single one of the names on the list had been found. But at the same time, every day, he would hear news of the names on the list signing with certain clubs or companies. For Wayne, who flipped through entertainment news every day, it was simply torturous. He was anxious. How could he not be anxious? In his imagination, there had been a bright future, but now, that expectation had turned into anxiety. He was worried that the beautiful vision he had imagined would turn out to be nothing. He was worried that the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. He could not sleep well these days. Unfortunately, Fang Zhao still wanted him to continue waiting. 9:00 in the morning. Wayne called Fang Zhao again and received the same reply. Still waiting? How long would that take? Fang Zhao, I am not criticizing you. I just want to say that if we really cannot walk this path, we might as well change our strategy earlier. Wayne pinched his eyebrows tiredly. Actually, many people who wanted to make changes had already found their homes long before Battle of the Century started. As for the remaining ones, they will complete their changes within a month after Battle of the Century starts. And after a month, there will not be any more major changes because all parties have already formed stable lineups and formulated development plans. Therefore, we really do not have much time. Wait until tomorrow, Fang Zhao replied. Tomorrow? Wayne's heart suddenly skipped a beat. His raised eyebrows rapidly trembled. He did not know how many twists and turns his heart had already spun. He probed. You have already found one? You will know tomorrow. Fang Zhao still had the same reply. Wayne was so anxious that he wanted to smash his communications device. Can't you give me a definite reply? Nope. After ending the call, Fang Zhao did not immediately log into the game. Instead, he warmed up in the practice area on Fiery Bird's official platform. He waited until 9:59 before exiting the practice area and officially logging into the game. After logging in, there was a 3-second protection period. When he logged in again, Fang Zhao chose the spot where he had gone offline. And just as the 3 seconds were about to pass, Fang Zhao suddenly took a step to the side, raised his hand and fired. 3 seconds were up. Bang! A bullet hit the ground behind him, but if Fang Zhao had not moved, this bullet would have hit Fang Zhao's head. At the same time, around the corner in front of him, a figure collapsed. Very quickly, the person disappeared, leaving only a gun. 1. Fang Zhao counted in his heart. He tilted his head and looked out the window. Through the window not too far away, he looked at the opposite building before withdrawing his gaze and continuing forward. Fang Zhao was not surprised that there was no situation where they were suppressing him with all their firepower. He had picked 8 people from the list that Wayne had given him. These 8 people were not chosen at random. After that, gunshots and the sounds of objects colliding and shattering could be heard from time to time inside the building. Outside the building, on the road, a wave of heat rolled over, causing the dust on the ground to disperse. A few mutated beasts from afar twitched their ears and looked toward the building that was emitting sounds from time to time. They lifted their feet and headed over. Clang! Following the sound of impact, they looked toward a rusted metal door on the 2nd floor. The metal door seemed to have received a huge impact from the inside and was protruding outwards. The layer of rust on the outside of the metal door started to fall as the door shook. With a creak, the metal door also toppled outwards. A mutated beast made use of the wrecked car downstairs and jumped onto the metal door on the 2nd floor. There was only one gun. Bang! The mutated beast that was standing by the metal door and preparing to enter the building collapsed with a bloody hole in its head. Bang, bang, bang. After a few consecutive gunshots, all the mutated beasts near the building were shot dead. However, some of them were killed by Fang Zhao. while others were shot by people hiding in other parts of the building. The difference was that Feng Zhao did not conceal his whereabouts, but the people who shot the mutated beasts were using guns equipped with silencers. The gunshots inside the building continued. After a short pause, they suddenly became more intense and ferocious. Glass shards fell from the windows, and there was a hole in the wall. Inside the fourth floor, wooden tables, porcelain, and other objects flew everywhere. Light bulbs exploded, and debris fell from the walls and ceiling. Then, suddenly, all the gunshots stopped. The sound of a person falling to the ground was not obvious when compared to the sound of objects falling to the ground. After a short period of silence, there was another series of gunshots. Every time a gunshot rang out, there would be an invisible pressure that would spread out. Outside the building, on the road without sunlight, a gust of wind without any rhythm blew dust into the distance. From time to time, some mutated beast heard the commotion and approached the building, but none of them were able to enter the building. They were all shot to death when they got close. Half an hour later, all the gunshots stopped. This time, it was no longer a short pause, but a real one. Jasmine, whose hair was dyed camouflage, walked over from the opposite building with a gloomy face. She stopped at the entrance and pushed her hair back in frustration. After a heavy sigh, she still walked in. It was still the third floor, the same spot where they had first seen alive after 500 years. "Oh, you're all here?" Jasmine's tone was a little more relaxed, and she did not feel as frustrated as before. Milo was squatting on the ground, chewing on a piece of wood he had picked up somewhere. His expression was even worse than Jasmine's. Seeing Jasmine enter, he spat out the wood. "Are you happy?" Jasmine raised an eyebrow and did not reply. Instead, she looked left and right. All 8 of them were here. "Where's alive after 500 years?" Jasmine asked. "I don't know. He should have logged off." Jinro stretched his arms. His eyes were unfocused, as if he was pondering some profound question. "Does this count as a failure?" Schwarzer said, "I was directly kicked offline. Just one kick, no tricks at all." Schwarzer could not help but tremble when he recalled the moment he had been kicked offline. He had set up a trap and a disguise to attract alive after 500 years' attention while he hid in the shadows. While the other party was distracted, he had relied on his agility to launch a sneak attack. In the end, he had been kicked offline. The metal door that had been knocked down had been his doing. "I hid in the building over there, but I was discovered right from the start." Jasmine was different from the others. She had not hidden in the building. Alive after 500 years had only said that he would appear here, but he had not said that the others had to stay here. Thus, she had hidden herself in the building next door. Unfortunately, just as she thought she was about to succeed, before she could pull the trigger, she was shot offline by the other party. Her sniping had failed, and she had been killed instead. Seeing that Milo did not make a sound, Jasmine kicked him. "What about you?" Milo's expression changed. He did not want to talk about this topic. "It's already over. What's the point of talking about this?" Milo did not want to say that he had been given special treatment by Alive after 500 years. Regardless of close-quarters combat, regardless of which gun he switched to, he had been completely suppressed. He had truly experienced what despair was. At first, Milo had thought that the other party could not do anything to him, which was why he had been in a deadlock for so long. Now that he had heard what the others had to say, he realized that the other party might have been able to knock him offline in one move. As for why he had been delayed for so long, Milo wished he could give himself a slap. Who asked you to have such a cheap mouth? Even his favorite automatic rifle had been taken away by the other party. He had logged back in and asked around. Everyone else's gun had not been taken away, but his had. This was simply revenge. Special treatment. Milo thought to himself, if he hadn't asked that question that day, would he have been given special treatment? He had been beaten and shot, and he had even lost his favorite gun. How frustrating. How could he say that? "Then what do we do now?" Schwarzer asked. The blow he had received today was a little big. He had truly experienced the difference, but he was not in low spirits. He had been defeated by his idol. Although he had been mercilessly kicked offline, his heart had not changed. His idol was still his idol. Wait, I received a message. Jinro sensed a new message notification on his account and stopped talking to check it. He was a little nervous, but very quickly, his eyes lit up. I got one too, the big guy Milo hurriedly said. Beside him, Jasmine did not make a sound, but from the looks of it, she was also checking the message. I got one too. Me too. Me too. Schwarzer watched as everyone started to check the message. Only he had not received a notification. What message did you guys receive? Schwarzer asked anxiously. Report to the 50th floor of Silver Wing Tower tomorrow, the 7 said in unison. The same message, but each with a different mood. Why? Why didn't I get one? Schwarzer's face was pale. He felt cold all over, as if his whole body was being dragged down. Of the 8, he was the only one who had not received a message. In other words, only he had been rejected? Schwarzer really wanted to join Alive after 500 years' team, not because of the team's prospects, but because of his idol-chasing mentality. Although Battle of the Century has only been released for a short time, the ID Alive after 500 years currently ranks first in Schwarzer's heart. Jinro opened his mouth to console this newcomer who had not yet officially stepped into the professional circle when he heard the other party say, turns out I haven't removed my screen yet. Jinro. Ha ha ha, I got one too. Schwarzer instantly broke away from his negative mood and wanted nothing more than to run away in joy. You want to sign with Silverwing? Jinro asked. Of course. Schwarzer nodded without hesitation. You guys aren't signing? Milo stood up and patted the invisible dust off his body, his expression calm. Kid, you have to think it over. Don't be in such a hurry. Be careful not to regret signing. Jasmine nodded in agreement, her face cold. That's right, you have to think it over. Dorian from HWR Esports Club, who had regained his freedom, said. But he said, report at Silver Wing 50th floor tomorrow. Then after tomorrow, will he still accept people? Schwarzer asked. There was silence. After a while, Milo pursed his lips and said, if he doesn't want to accept, then so be it. After all, we are independent players. We don't even want to sign with a club, let alone an amateur entertainment company. 2 amateurs also said, we are just amateurs. Whether we change careers or not, there is no rush. HWR's Dorian. There are many clubs that want to sign me. My current employer also wants to renew my contract. Yinzhou Ocean University's Jake. My dad has almost 20 invitations in his hands. Oh, then you guys continue to think about it. I will go offline to buy a ticket. Tomorrow, I will go to Qian City's Silver Wing to meet Alive after 500 years. Schwarzer could not wait to go offline. After a strange silence, the 7 of them went offline one after another. After going offline, those who lived outside of Qian City did the same thing. Check for tickets and air tickets. Chapter 142. The next day, Fang Zhao had been called over by Fiery Bird's Yinzhou branch for a meeting. As a member of the evaluation team and consultant team, besides playing games and sending documents to Fiery Bird, he would be called over for a meeting every once in a while. Of course, he did not have to be there in person. An online conference was fine, but Fang Zhao was not there for that. Zachary, the engineer who had helped him install the 10th generation console, wanted to show him the latest operating data. Before heading over, Fang Zhao gave Wayne a call and told him to wait on the 50th floor. Actually, even if Fang Zhao had not mentioned it, Wayne would have headed over to the 50th floor. Yesterday, Fang Zhao had told him that there would definitely be results today. Wayne had not slept at all last night. He had thought too much and thought too much. Today, he was even more fatigued, and his eyes were bloodshot. After arriving at the company, he had only used the treatment equipment to relieve his fatigue and had not rested. Zhuwan, did your manager say anything? Wayne wanted to know more information from Zhuwan and the others. Yes, boss said there might be a newcomer today. Zhuwan and the others were also curious. They did not know who the newcomer Fang Zhao had mentioned might be. Wayne asked a few more questions and realized that Zhu and the others did not know much. He could only sit in the virtual projects department's lounge and wait. Today, Feng Zhao did not let Zhuyu drive. Instead, he gave Zhuyu a mission. Besides telling them to report to the 50th floor of Silver Wing, Feng Zhao had also left a contact number for the 8 of them. It was Zhu유's work number, separate from his personal number. Usually, he would use this number for temporary missions. At 9 a.m., many companies had just started work and were busy. The first floor of the Silver Wing building was filled with people hurrying to and fro. Zhuyu answered a call and came down. He saw Schwarzer standing in front of the building, looking around curiously with a large travel bag on his back. Schwarzer? Yes, that's me. Schwarzer's eyes were filled with excitement. May I ask who you are? I was on the phone with you just now. Boss ordered me to bring you up. Zhuyu did not linger outside. There were many reporters loitering outside the entertainment company. It would not be good to stand there for too long. Do you need help with your bag? No, thanks. Schwarzer sized up Zhuyu. After entering the elevator, he asked, Your boss is alive after 500 years? Zhuyu glanced at him. My boss is the manager of Silver Wing's virtual projects department. I see. Schwarzer was a little disappointed, but he quickly asked excitedly, The virtual projects department on the 50th floor? Silver Wing 50 Polar Lights Place? Is alive after 500 years also here? Sometimes. Will he come today? Yes, but he's busy, so he'll be a little late. Ha ha ha, it's good that you will come over. When Schwarzer followed Zhuyu into the virtual projects department on the 50th floor, Wayne stared at them. Schwarzer? He remembered everyone on the name list that Wayne had given Feng Zhao. Schwarzer was still a university student. Wayne had originally wanted to sign him as a reserve talent, but Schwarzer's performance in university esports competitions had been too outstanding. Some clubs had been vying for him, and Wayne had been unable to compete with them. He didn't expect to see it here. This is the newcomer Feng Zhao mentioned? Hello, I am Silver Wing Gaming Department Manager Wayne. Wayne was so excited that his face turned red, and he felt as if his eyes were brimming with tears. After being anxious for so many days, he had finally found one, and it was a seedling with great potential. Oh, hello. Schwarzer put down his bag and looked left and right, sizing up the legendary and mysterious 50th floor of Silver Wing. He had really come in and was sitting on the sofa on the 50th floor of Silver Wing. Just the thought of being able to see his idol made Schwarzer even more excited. He carefully observed the layout of every corner of the place. The Battle of the Century atmosphere was very strong, probably because of the virtual idol Polar Lights endorsement. There was also a picture of a curly-haired dog with a gold medal. To the side was a large display cabinet with models of items from the old era, such as bicycles, motorcycles, firearms, and the like. There was also a model of the virtual idol Polar Light and a memory card for the 100-year period of Divine Punishment series. That's the racing version of the T-Rex model that won against 2S and Boom back then? This material, and it's the limited edition model. Schwarzer sprang up from the sofa and rushed over. Zhu and the others had come out to look at the newcomer. They had not paid much attention to university esports competitions this year, but when they chatted with their juniors, they had still heard of Schwarzer's name and knew that this kid really had some ability. You can touch it if you like. It was taken directly from Fiery Bird's Yinzhou branch, but you have to be careful. Our boss will be angry if you damage it, and the consequences are very serious, Zhuan said. Wayne, who had a stomach full of questions, was completely ignored. Wayne had sent Schwarzer an invitation message before, but unfortunately, he had not received a reply. That message had probably been deleted and thrown into the trash. He was not stupid enough to take the initiative to bring it up. Now that the atmosphere was so good, how awkward would it be to bring it up? To him, it was also not something to be proud of. Besides, looking at Schwarzer's appearance, he did not seem to remember it at all, which proved that the message had been ignored long ago. That's Schwarzer. Are you willing to sign with Silver Wing? Why don't we sit down and talk about the contract now? Wayne asked. Contract? No rush. I want to wait for the great alive after 500 years to return before we talk. Although Schwarzer was a celebrity chaser and might be a little impulsive when making decisions, he was not a moron. He had signed the contract for Alive after 500 years. Before seeing him in person, he would not easily sign the contract. Wayne was about to say something when he heard Zhuoyu's communicator ring again. I'm going down to pick up another person. Zhuoyu left. Another one? Wayne was no longer in a hurry to discuss the contract with Schwarzer. He could not sit still, so he just stood there, his eyes fixed on the door. After a while, the door opened again. Zhuoyu and a person wearing a hat and sunglasses walked in together. When the other party took off his hat and sunglasses, Wayne cried out in astonishment, Dorian? Dorian was a member of HWR's main team. His contract had expired. Previously, all sorts of news had been speculating about his choice, whether he would renew his contract or sign with another club. Who would have thought that he would actually come here? Silver Wing was trying to snatch people from other clubs. Wayne wanted to laugh. Dorian looked at Schwarzer, who was touching the model, and laughed. Kid, you're pretty early. You're even faster than me, who lives in Qian City. Hee hee. Isn't it because I'm anxious to meet my idol? Schwarzer reluctantly put the model back. I wonder how many will come today. Wayne's ears pricked up. From what Schwarzer had just said, could there be others? Dorian was the same as Schwarzer. Before seeing Alive after 500 years in person, he would not discuss any contract matters. Half an hour later, Zhuoyu's communicator rang again. This time, Wayne could not even stand. He followed Zhuoyu down to pick up the person. When he saw Jinro, a wave of ecstasy surged in his heart. He took a few deep breaths to barely calm himself down. Jinro, this was Jinro, the former captain of 2S's main team. Although Jinro had retired due to some disputes back then and was no longer active in the professional circles, he had not completely withdrawn from the gaming world. It was just that very few people mentioned him anymore. It was not that no club wanted him, but it was rumored that Jinro did not want to return to the professional circles, so there had not been any activity. What kind of methods had Feng Zhao used to poach such a person? Regardless of whether he signed in the end, the other party coming over was a good sign. Schwarzer, Dorian, and Jinro played board games as they waited. After that, the fourth and fifth people arrived one after another. They were the amateur circle's Ogiest and Yu Zhongqing. These two had quite a reputation in Yinzhou's gaming circles and were on Wayne's list. Back then, when Wayne had sent out the invitation, Yu Zhongqing had replied with a rejection message, saying that he did not want to change professions for the time being. Now it seemed that it was not that he did not want to change professions, but that Wayne did not have the qualifications. Milo and Molly arrived at around 2 in the afternoon. Jake was the last to arrive because his father had deliberately delayed some time on the way, but under Jake's insistence, he still arrived before 3 o'clock. We are just here to check out the situation. We have not decided to sign, Jake's father hurriedly said after entering the door. Of course, he hoped that his son would sign with one of Yinzhou's Big 5 esports clubs. After all, the reputation of the Big 5 was there. Even if he did not sign with the Big 5, signing with a decent esports club would also be fine. But why an entertainment company? Weren't these kinds of companies just trying to make money? It was said that this kind of entertainment company was only suitable for retirement. Only professional esports athletes who were past their prime would consider it. Jake's career had not even officially begun. What future could he have by joining this kind of company? He could not figure it out. Had his son been brainwashed? The 8 of them did not explain to their respective agents and assistants. All they did was play board games on the 50th floor of Silver Wing Tower while waiting. Zuwin, Rodney, and the others did not show much emotion on their faces, but they were so happy in the department's chat group that they could not wait to howl at the top of their lungs. Among these people, Jinro and Milo were already famous when Zuwan and the others were in middle school. Especially Jinro, he was very popular when they were in middle school. Back then, Zuwan had even been a fan of 2S and bought clothes with the 2S sword and Star Club logo. Later, after Jinro retired, he paid less attention to 2S. Time slowly passed until 4 p.m. The 8 people playing games were a little distracted. After playing for a while, they would glance at the door. Zhuoyu's communications device rang again. Wayne looked over nervously. Just as he was about to ask if the ninth person had arrived, he heard Zhuyu say, "It's boss." Everyone around them, including the 8 people playing games, stopped what they were doing and looked over. "Everyone is here. Okay. Yes. Yes. I understand." After ending the call, Zhuyu said, "Boss is already here. Let's clean up the conference room." "Does that mean the god is coming too?" Schwarzer also stopped playing cards and sat there in anticipation. 5 minutes later, the door of the virtual projects department on the 50th floor opened again. Fang Zhao strode in, scanned the people in the lounge, then said to Wayne, "Let's go to the conference room first." The 8 of them had done a preliminary investigation of the virtual projects department on the 50th floor and knew that Fang Zhao was the young composer-cum department manager. When Fang Zhao entered, they looked behind him, but all they saw was a closed door. Schwarzer stared at the door and asked, "Where's the god? Alive after 500 years?" Milo also asked. Fang Zhao looked at them. "I am." The 8 of them. Deathly silence. It was a short sentence, 3 words. They were not loud, but they reverberated in the minds of the 8 of them. Every word was like a roar of thunder, exploding their minds until their minds went blank. They stood there in a daze, as if they had been struck dumb. After half a minute, Jinro took a deep breath and broke the silence in the room. Are you serious? This joke is too cold. I can't laugh." Jake's face was wooden. He really could not imagine that an expert who dominated the global leaderboards and oppressed them like they were vegetables was actually the same age as him. "Who did you say you were?" Schwarzer pointed a trembling finger at Fang Zhao, his face full of shock. Jasmine, who had been expressionless all along, also looked as if she had seen a ghost. Her eyes were about to split open. "Impossible. I don't believe it." Milo stood up. His gaze was like a scanner as he scanned Fang Zhao from head to toe. He could not find any trace of an expert. Compared to the game, the current Fang Zhao was more like a youngster engaged in artwork, a far cry from the image he had in mind. Fang Zhao met the questioning gazes of the 8 of them and nodded. He did not get angry. "No problem. Just another round of beating will do." Milo. He suddenly had the urge to give himself another slap. Fang Zhao looked at Zhuwan. "Use the game consoles." "No problem." After Zhuwan asked the others, he eagerly went over to open the gaming room and tidied up the things inside. It was all the junk they had left behind after gaming. In the gaming room, besides Zhuwan's and the others' consoles, there were also the consoles of the 5 people from the gaming department. These had been moved over a few days ago and were enough for 9 people to use. When they walked into the gaming room and saw the consoles, the 8 of them felt a sense of apprehension, but this feeling did not suppress the doubts in their hearts. Thus, they still chose to find out in the game. Whether it was real or fake, they would know once they went in and tried it out. 5 minutes later, Wayne and the others waiting outside had not even finished their cups of tea when the door to the gaming room opened. Fang Zhao was the first to walk out. He did not look much different from when he had entered. After him, the others gradually walked out, but Schwarzer was sweating profusely. Jake's face was pale. Milo looked as if his worldview had been shattered. Even the usually calm Jinro looked absent-minded. The 8 of them all had different expressions, but they could all be summed up in one word: a huge blow. 2 hours later. Chapter 143. It was another seemingly peaceful morning. Every day, there were countless pieces of news to attract the public's attention. Many promoters were operating on the topics they had received, and entertainment reporters were busy with online and offline activities, unearthing more news that no one knew about. Whose ranking had risen again, which celebrity had a scandal, XX Esports Club had signed another valiant general, XX's transfer scandal, and so on dominated the headlines of every section of the entertainment industry, and many of them were esports stars. But after seeing this sort of thing so many times, it was no longer considered big news. It was just entertainment for the day, and overall, it was still considered peaceful. Battle of the Century, Yinzhou District 79. The reporters who had been ordered to keep tabs on Alive after 500 years did the same thing every day. Log on, wait, nothing, log off. They were starting to lose confidence in themselves. However, at 9 a.m. that day, just when everyone thought it was going to be another peaceful day, Silver Wing, which had been the subject of media attention, released a piece of news. Silver Wing's Virtual Projects Department has teamed up with the Gaming Department to form the Silver Wing 50 Polar Light Project team, focusing on the game Battle of the Century, and has signed on Yinzhou's rising esports star, Schwarzer. Silver Wing's Virtual Projects Department and Gaming Department teaming up to form the Silver Wing 50 Polar Light Project team was not considered news. Although Silver Wing had not made an official statement, based on the information they had released, everyone could guess that today was just the official announcement. It was expected. And signing on Yinzhou's rising esports star, Schwarzer, was also not considered big news. Schwarzer's name was only known to those in the media who paid attention to university esports. Others, even those in the esports industry, might not necessarily know this name. Schwarzer? That student who's only in his second year? Signing a contract as a reserve talent? Or directly joining as an official team member? None of this was mentioned. Silver Wing's behavior is really unsightly. That student is only a second year and is still naive. Yet they managed to bluff him over, using Alive after 500 years to bait him. University students are so gullible. A good seedling is about to be ruined. In the mainstream way of thinking, Alive after 500 years was strong only because he was strong, not because of Silver Wing, who knew what kind of shady operations were going on behind the scenes. Thus, even if the gaming circles were flooded by this idea that had popped up out of nowhere, people who wanted to walk the path of esports seriously would not consider an entertainment company like Silver Wing. Regarding this piece of news, the people who had been paying attention to Silver Wing only took a look and let it pass. Practically everyone believed that as long as Jacques entered the professional scene, he would definitely soar to the skies. The prerequisite was that he entered a professional esports club and not an entertainment company. Yesterday, on the school forums, there had been people discussing which esports club Jacques would eventually sign with. After all, the game had been out for almost a month. Generally, all transfers and contracts would be completed within this month. Who would have thought that today would be a head-on blow? This was not a small one. Could it be that Jiaxin has some unspeakable difficulties? Were you forced to do this? I heard that these large entertainment companies that dabble in everything will use some shady methods. On social media, Ocean University students formed a group to denounce Silver Wing officials, wanting to know what kind of underhanded methods they had used to force Jacques to sign. There were also people who went to Jacques' homepage to inquire, but whether it was Jacques or Silver Wing officials, neither Jacques nor Silver Wing officials uttered a peep. Qian Cheng, the chief editor of the popular media magazine Prairie Fire, had a grave expression as he instructed his subordinates, "Keep an eye on them. I have a feeling that Silver Wing is going to make a big move today." Another hour after Jacques' news, Silver Wing released another piece of news. God of the amateur esports circles, Ogiest, has signed with Silver Wing. Many people in the amateur circles knew that Ogiest's family owned a company. His elder brother and his parents managed the company. He had shares and occupied an idle position in the company, where he usually squatted and played games. A year ago, Ogiest had said that he wanted to switch from amateur to professional, but there had been no news of him signing a contract. Who would have thought that it would come out now? People in the amateur circles were stunned. Logically speaking, Ogiest did not lack money and was ranked in the top 10 of the amateur circles. Why did he not think it through and sign with Silver Wing? But after this third piece of news was released, Silver Wing's side remained silent. Ogiest did not come out either, leaving everyone to speculate. And it was also with this third piece of news that many people discovered that the three pieces of news were separated by an hour, and the intensity of the shock increased by the hour. Did this mean that in another hour, there would be even more shocking news? Wayne sat in his office and chuckled at the speculations of the outside world. He just wanted to let more people experience his feelings yesterday. Just like how he had felt yesterday when he saw Zui Yu's heart tremble every time he received a call, these people probably felt the same way, right? There were only 3 pieces of news, and it was still early. Indeed, many people were waiting for that hour to pass. An hour was actually not very long. Playing a little game, chatting, and it would pass. An hour later, as everyone expected, Silver Wing released another piece of news at the right time. Yu Zhongqing, who ranked ahead of Ogiest in the amateur circles, had signed with Silver Wing. Yu Zhongqing was a person who kept a low profile in the amateur circles and rarely interacted with others, but because of his good maneuvering, high battle results, and high ranking, many esports clubs had always wanted to rope him in. Who would have thought that he would be intercepted by Silver Wing? Ogiest and Yu Zhongqing, these 2 celebrities in the amateur circles, had actually signed with Silver Wing. Compared to them, Schwarzer and Jake, who ranked ahead of them, were really not that important. Look, even 2 seniors in the amateur circles had been duped. With this thought, the Ocean University students felt a little better in their hearts. At this moment, many people even stopped playing games and waited for Silver Wing's side to release news. They were a little more anxious than before, and the media had also withdrawn their casual attitudes. Those with a keen sense of professionalism all knew that Silver Wing's move was not over yet. There was an even bigger one waiting for them. It was currently noon. Many people who had only finished work at 12 were now sitting in front of their screens with lunch boxes in their hands, waiting for news, or gathered in the cafeteria to discuss. An hour later, when Silver Wing released its 5th piece of news, a few people who were eating directly spat out their food. Unaffiliated player Milo? That famous unaffiliated player in the circle, Black Wizard Milo? So he's Black Wizard. I couldn't remember when I saw the name. Even this unaffiliated player has been roped in. How did Silver Wing convince him? Did they throw money at him? Milo isn't poor either. Maybe Black Wizard wants to bid farewell to his life as an unaffiliated player? Although Black Wizard Milo also had his own shop, his focus was on gaming. He also frequently participated in professional competitions and had made a name for himself early on. In terms of fame, he was even bigger than Ogiest and Yu Zhongqing. However, at this moment, even though everyone was curious about the reason Black Wizard had signed with Silver Wing, they were even more curious about who else would sign next. Right now, I just want to know who else has been poached by Silver Wing after Black Wizard. This was what many netizens and media wanted to know. Not only a few entertainment companies of the same nature as Silver Wing, even the various esports clubs were paying attention. An hour later, Silver Wing announced that famous unaffiliated player Amoli, who often used the ID Jasmine and was nicknamed Little White Flower, had signed with Silver Wing. Fuck. Why did Little White Flower sign too? This Little White Flower really isn't Little White. Calling her a man-eating flower wouldn't be wrong. In Yinzhou's esports circles, whether it was students, media, esports clubs, or other players, practically everyone was paying attention to this matter. This time, everyone felt like time was passing especially slowly. When it was time, everyone felt like they were suddenly exposed to air after being suffocated. But before they could even catch their breath, they saw Silver Wing's new announcement: Jinro has signed with Silver Wing. There was no need for too much introduction. Just the name was enough. Everyone who saw this announcement had a look of disbelief in their eyes. They reread the announcement a few more times, as if they were analyzing a profound ancient phrase. A minute after this announcement was sent, Prairie Fire released a screenshot. It was a screenshot of an in-game ID search. On it was an ID all veteran gamers were familiar with, Q9 Building, an ID that had accompanied many people through primary school, secondary school, or university. Perhaps some new gamers weren't familiar with this ID, but 8 years ago, this ID was known by everyone in the gaming circles. That was the captain of one of the big 5 esports powerhouses, 2S Team 1. The ID that had disappeared for 8 years had reappeared, returning to the professional circles. Although the points on this account were still 0, fans who had once supported him did not doubt his ability. They believed that in the near future, this ID would once again rush to the top of the leaderboards. Inside the 2S Esports Club, the atmosphere was rather strange. Among the current active 2S players, there were quite a number of people from the same period as Jinro and had worked under him before. It was just that some of them were still in Team 1, while others had already dropped to Team 2, Team 3, or had jumped ship. Others did not know Jinro's current ability, but they had found out through other channels. These 8 years, to Jinro, had actually been a period of settling down. He had gotten rid of the impetuousness of the past, had matured, and was harder to deal with. Back then, Jinro's agreement with 2S was that he would not sign with any professional esports club for 10 years. However, entertainment companies other than professional esports clubs did not count. 2S had never looked up to those entertainment companies. It had even hoped that Jinro would sign with those entertainment companies to waste his talent. That way, he might even go downhill. But Silver Wing was different. It was a Silver Wing that had created the #1 player on the global leaderboards. No one knew what kind of path it would take next. Since there was a live after 500 years, would there be a second, a third, or even more? In the eyes of the various esports clubs, Silver Wing was like a monster that had revealed its malevolent face. They had no choice but to guard against it. It would not be a serious injury, but it would definitely be a scare. After these 8 pieces of news, Silver Wing finally released a concluding statement. It meant that it was very happy to work with these 8, and that they would not regret signing with Silver Wing. Seeing the concluding statement, many esports clubs and entertainment companies heaved a sigh of relief. However, while the spectators and the media were relieved, they also felt a little regretful. Of course, they were looking forward to even more explosive news, but they had seen enough excitement for today. Some commentators wrote an evaluation of the news released by Silver Wing today. Silver Wing is extremely likely to become Yinzhou's #6 esports. #6 in Yinzhou's esports world. Although it was only #6, this was definitely not meant to be belittling. An entertainment company that had previously focused on video and music, a company that had only followed the trend in the gaming industry to make money, was actually being evaluated as being able to squeeze out other professional esports clubs and become the #6 behind Yinzhou's Big Five? In the entire entertainment industry, this was an extremely high evaluation. Big ambition. These 4 words were the summary of the 8 announcements released by Silver Wing by critics within the industry. The internet was also abuzz. 8 consecutive explosions. Silver Wing wants to ascend to the heavens. Fishing for 1 can be said to be swindling. Fishing for 2 can also be said to be skillful at swindling. But 3, 4, 5, 8. Among these 8, there are even veterans in the industry, and they are the cream of the crop. Are these people that easy to swindle? 1 brain spasm, 2 brain spasms, 8 brain spasms? Don't believe it. This time, nobody said anything about Silver Wing using the ID alive after 500 years to bait. As expected, Silver Wing's previous low profile was to prepare for a big move. As for the upcoming official press conference, before Silver Wing had even sent out invitations, the media had already taken the initiative to send out their applications to attend the press conference. Even if some large and popular media outlets did not send out their applications, Silver Wing would still invite them. But what if? What if they were not invited or were carelessly left out? Sending out an application and getting a reply would put them at ease. The person in charge of this area at Silver Wing was on the verge of tears when he saw the screen full of emails. The venue was limited, but there were too many applications. He was not familiar with the gaming circles, and Silver Wing had never encountered such a situation in the past. Some of the applications were from companies or individuals he had never heard of, and they were not very popular. However, he did not dare to reject them just like that. This matter was very important to the higher-ups. If he made a mistake, it would not just be a matter of a demerit and a fine. Thus, he could only seek help from the higher-ups and find a few people who understood the gaming circles to come over and decide which ones to approve. At the same time, the 8 main characters mentioned in the 8 pieces of news also updated their statuses on their social media platforms. They were all the same, and it seemed to be an answer to the various questions of netizens. Our boss is alive after 500 years. Seeing this, the netizens also started to ponder. Does this mean alive after 500 years is personally leading the team? Definitely. Jinro was willing to give up his position as captain to sign with Silver Wing. He definitely recognizes this person's ability, recognizes the strength of this team, and thinks highly of its prospects. The 8 people who signed with Silver Wing, are they really stupid? Why do I feel that they are actually very smart and far-sighted? How does it feel to work for the number 1 player on the global leaderboards? I'm suddenly a little envious of them. They must have already met alive after 500 years in person. I'm so envious. I also want to meet alive after 500 years in person. You make me want to join Silver Wing as well. Many people had seen alive after 500 years godly maneuvers. At this time, people's tendency to blindly follow the crowd began to affect their standpoints. Even many professional players had the same thought. Perhaps signing with Silver Wing wasn't a bad choice. Chapter 144. Since they had signed with Silver Wing, they could not casually post their statuses on social media. However, these 8 statuses were permitted. Silver Wing did not immediately announce the identity of alive after 500 years. According to the people in charge of publicity and operations, the media would only continue to pay attention if they kept them in suspense. Thus, Silver Wing decided to only release news of these 8 signing contracts. As for the biggest boss-level ID, they would keep it a secret for now. But they did not intend to completely hide it. Look, these 8 statuses were telling the public the truth. It was just that no one would think in that direction. Although the Silverwing 50 Polar Light project was a collaboration between the Virtual Projects Department and the Gaming Department, the Virtual Projects Department had the final say. The main decision-maker was the Virtual Projects Department. The Gaming Department only played a supporting role. After all, the team still had to be led by Feng Zhao. The Silverwing 50 Polar Light Esports project was the same as the Polar Light project team. Both belonged to the Virtual Projects Department. The boss, mentioned in the statuses of the 8, was actually referring to the head of the Virtual Projects Department, who held absolute decision-making power. That was alive after 500 years. This way, even if someone asked why Silverwing kept it a secret, Silverwing could reply, "It's not that we didn't tell you. We actually told you a long time ago. It's just that you didn't understand." According to common sense, no one would think in that direction. For example, in the management of esports clubs, managers were managers, esports players were esports players, and the captain of the main team was also an esports player. They were not managers of the company or the project team. Thus, when the public saw the statuses of the 8, they would only think that alive after 500 years was the boss of the team and the captain. Even if people guessed the truth, they would just be joking and not take it seriously. The press conference was held at the Silver Wing Tower. Feng Zhao was dressed in the uniform of a company manager. His youthful face was free of the sinister scars he had in the game. He had vented all the anger he had suppressed in his heart for a long time. His oppressive aura had vanished, and he looked much gentler and more refined. When the 8 people backstage saw Feng Zhao, the corners of their mouths twitched in unison. The burly Milo said in a low voice, "Beast in human clothing. Don't talk nonsense." "That's not how you use that word," Jinro said. However, he understood what Milo wanted to express. Milo wanted to say that Feng Zhao was like a ferocious beast in human skin. He also agreed with Milo's opinion. Feng Zhao was too different in real life and in the game. It was no wonder they had all doubted him. Even if they disregarded the age factor, such a contrast would make anyone doubt and find it hard to believe. "There are so many people here," Schwarzer said nervously. He had just poked his head out to take a look, but he quickly retracted it. Of the 8 present, apart from Schwarzer, the others were already used to this sort of situation. They weren't as nervous as Schwarzer and could still be considered calm. Jinro's mood was rather complicated. He had left the pro scene 8 years ago. During those 8 years, he had kept a low profile. He didn't even use his usual ID, always using a temporary account or a smurf. In those 8 years, he hadn't encountered such a situation where everyone was paying attention to him. Now that he was in such a situation again, he couldn't help but think back to things that had happened a long time ago. "Get ready, it's time to go on stage," a staff member reminded them. Inside the venue, media from various places were gathered, observing the words and actions of everyone on stage, thinking about how to get the scoop. Beside Prairie Fire's editor-in-chief, Qian Cheng, sat a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He looked rather decent, but there were plenty of entertainment reporters who looked more decent than him. There was nothing special about this person's appearance. A few glances at him would not leave a deep impression. After the press conference had started, Qian Cheng would whisper a few words to him from time to time. If it was inconvenient to speak, they would just exchange messages. This person wasn't from Prairie Fire, but today, Qian Cheng had brought him in as a Prairie Fire employee. This person had a disguise on his face, so it wasn't his original appearance. He was Wang Tai, the famous Yinzhou's strongest paparazzi. No one knew what he really looked like, but everyone in the industry knew that there was no news he couldn't dig up, only news you couldn't afford. It was said that his sense of smell didn't lose out to that of the cemetery of martyrs' guards. This time, Qian Cheng had spent a large sum to invite this person over to help find alive after 500 years. Qian Cheng leaned over and asked in a low voice, "Did you find anything?" Wang Tai stared at the person speaking on stage and pointed. "What's the background of this person?" "Virtual Projects Department Manager Fang Zhao?" "How much do you know about this person?" "You mean Fang Zhao? This kid is very capable." Silverwing's Virtual Projects Department came to life under his leadership. What's most surprising is that he's a composer and has some reputation in the composer world. He specializes in symphonic structures and has published a book with great master Xuejing. It's sold well, and he's done a global lecture tour. "Why? Is there a problem with him?" Qian Cheng asked in astonishment. Wang Tai shook his head. "A composer? An artist? No wonder." Fang Zhao gave him a strange feeling, but when he remembered that the other party was a composer, Wang Tai felt at ease. Those who dabbled in the arts were different from ordinary people, so it wasn't strange to feel a little strange. Seeing Wang Tai shake his head, Qian Cheng sighed. He knew it. How could Fang Zhao be alive after 500 years? After Fang Zhao finished his lines, he retreated backstage. Jinro and the rest of the 8 took their seats on stage. Qian Cheng retracted his gaze from the stage and asked unwillingly, "Up until now, not a single person on stage has been suspected?" Wang Tai frowned, his eyes still fixed on the people on stage who were being questioned by the reporters. This included the 8 new Silver Wing leads, as well as Silver Wing's managers and staff. He didn't let a single one of them escape. Every time Wang Tai looked at the stage, he had a very strange feeling. It was as if he could reach out and touch the truth, but there was a layer of fog in front of him and he couldn't see clearly. This kind of contradictory feeling was very rare. Something was strange. There was definitely something strange going on here. But where exactly had he overlooked something? Seeing Wang Tai's brows furrowed, Qian Cheng knew that Wang Tai had encountered a difficult problem. Seeing that Wang Tai didn't reply, he didn't pursue the matter. He just paid attention to Wang Tai's reaction and observed the minute changes in his expression. On stage, Schwarzer usually looked very lively, but when he was actually on stage and being stared at by hundreds of reporters, he felt uneasy all over. Luckily, he had been given fewer words, and he didn't have to answer questions. With Jinro and Dorian, these 2 veterans around, the others had it much easier. Besides, among the 8 people today, the reporters' focus was on Jinro and Dorian, the 2 from the Big 5 of esports. The others' tasks were much easier. Schwarzer, who had the least weight among the 8, was only responsible for smiling. The reporters also asked many more pointed questions, but they were all deflected by the veteran Jinro. And when one reporter directly asked, "Who exactly is alive after 500 years? Is he here?" This time, Jinro didn't answer directly. Instead, like the other 7, he turned to the reporter who had asked the question and flashed a complicated and meaningful smile. The reaction of Jinro and the others made the reporter think that he had just asked an extremely stupid question. After sitting down, he replayed the question in his mind a few times, but he still couldn't find anything strange about it. Could it be that the question was too direct? Did I say something wrong? The reporter asked his colleague. You didn't say anything wrong, right? The colleague wasn't sure either, because the reactions of Jinro and the others were really puzzling. This question was answered by Wayne. His reply was very simple. As for who alive after 500 years is, it's a secret for now. You want to know, right? If you want to know, go check it out yourself. In any case, I'm not telling you. Scold me? Even if you scold me, I won't tell you. Wayne loved to see reporters stomping their feet in anger, yet unable to do anything about it. The reporters at the venue asked Jinro about his experiences over the past 8 years, asked Dorian why he had chosen Silverwing, and asked all sorts of questions. There were a lot of revelations, but Qin Cheng, who was sitting in the venue, was not the least bit happy. He had no interest in those questions. As time ticked by, the question he most wanted to know had yet to be answered. Still no progress? Qin Cheng asked again. Wang Tai paused and still shook his head. Even if his intuition felt that he was just one step away from the truth, he just couldn't grasp that strange factor. Thus, he couldn't give Qin Cheng a definite answer. Qin Cheng was very disappointed. Then maybe alive, after 500 years didn't come today? No, I feel that alive after 500 years could very well be here. Did you notice that they were a little nervous when answering a few questions about alive after 500 years? Especially Dark Magician Milo. He's more rational than that brainless Van Swartzer, and he doesn't pretend to be as solid as Jinro and the others. His reaction is the most genuine and most worthy of observation. Is he afraid? Qin Cheng asked. More accurately, he's afraid. He's worried that he'll say the wrong thing. It's not because the atmosphere is tense, but because he's afraid of someone here. Thus, I'm guessing that the person you're looking for is here. Suddenly, Wang Tai paused and looked diagonally upward. What's wrong? Qin Cheng asked. I feel like someone is watching me through the surveillance cameras. Recognized you? No idea. In the backstage lounge, Fang Zhao's gaze met Wang Tai's on the screen through the surveillance cameras. Very sharp, Fang Zhao said. Boss, there seems to be something wrong with this person. Should we check it out? Zhuyu asked. No need. When the press conference came to an end, Fang Zhao went on stage again and took pictures with the 8 people who had signed the contract, as well as Wayne and a few other Silver Wing leaders and staff members. When everything was over, the reporters gradually left. Jinro and the other 8 only relaxed when they returned to the 50th floor. Recalling the reporters' questions about alive after 500 years, the 8 of them found it funny. The distance between the virtual world and the real world could be very far or very close. Some people were separated by a great distance, yet they could communicate face-to-face through the internet and feel like the other party was right beside them. But sometimes, the real person was clearly standing right in front of you, yet you turned a blind eye and racked your brains to dig out the truth from somewhere else. Silverwing 50 Polar Light was under the Virtual Projects Department. Their future office location would also be the Virtual Projects Department on the 50th floor. Regarding this, Wayne could not do anything about it. Furthermore, the space here was large and easy to plan and operate. There was enough space to open up another gaming room. The company had equipped the 8 of them with Fiery Bird's 9th-generation gaming consoles. If they went online at the company, they could use them directly. Although this sort of entertainment company was not as professional as esports clubs, entertainment companies had more money, so there was no need to worry about equipment. The contracts of Jinro's group of 8 were different from those of the other celebrities in the company. Everyone's contracts were different, but overall, they were still considered to have more freedom than a club's contract. This was something that had been negotiated before signing the contract. Everyone's contract was tailored to their individual circumstances. Because the game had already started, there was not much time left. Fang Zhao gave them 3 days to prepare. Schwarzer, who was still a student, needed to bring along his contract with Silver Wing and return to school to handle some procedures for a long-distance course. The others also needed to handle some personal matters. However, 3 days was enough. 3 days later, in the gaming room on the 50th floor of Silver Wing Tower, Jinro's group of 8, plus the 5 from the gaming department, logged on. The team had been upgraded by Fang Zhao, and the maximum number of members had increased from 20 to 25. However, Zhu Wan and the others had work to do and would not participate in any operations. Zhu Wan and the others had wanted to withdraw from the team and form a new one, but Fang Zhao had vetoed the idea. Instead, he had set up a daily military training mission for non-professional esports members of the Virtual Projects Department. Jinro was using his old account. This was his first time logging in, and because he was bound to the team, his location was set at Fang Zhao's location, the building where Fang Zhao had met them. Milo and the others' accounts were in a different district, too far from District 79, so they had applied for new accounts. Milo's old account ID was Black Wizard, and his new account was Black Wizard Milo. Dorian was also using a new account. The 5 from the gaming department had not been idle during this period. Fang Zhao had assigned them a mission. The 5 traveled from the city district to the coordinates Fang Zhao had given them. They did not have Fang Zhao's ability to cycle all over the city in a day, so they spent a lot more time. However, they still completed their mission and arrived at the coordinates. Jinro's group of 8, the 5 from the gaming department, and Fang Zhao and Zhuyu made a total of 15 gathered at the coordinates. After logging in, Schwarzer looked at the 0 points on his new account and asked Fang Zhao, "Boss, what is our mission today?" Fang Zhao looked at the road leading to the city district in front of the building and said, "Let's sweep this road first." "All right. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.